Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of the Old Kings Highway Committee of the Town of Yarmouth, which is being held in accordance with Chapter 470 of the Acts of 1973 as amended at 7:15 p.m. on Monday, October 23rd, 2023, at the Yarmouth Town Hall Hearing Room located at 1146 Route 28, South Yarmouth. Moreover, pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, considering certain COVID-19 measures, this meeting is being run in hybrid mode. There will be live participation. There will be, very possibly, some Zoom participation and possibly telephone participation as well. 4 new applications for certificate of appropriateness and 4 tabled certificate of appropriateness will be heard this evening in the order listed on the agenda. Please be reminded that our committee's main purpose is to review items for appropriateness and setting, and it is the responsibility of the applicant to comply with the regulations of other town boards and departments, including building, conservation, engineering, health, zoning, and the sign inspector. You should know that there is a 10 calendar day appeal period starting once a decision is filed with the town clerk. Any person aggrieved by our decision tonight can appeal to the Regional Commission of the Old Kings Highway Historic District. Our office administrator, Lisa Sherman, will be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this process. So as many of you are aware, our procedure here is to allow the applicant or the applicant's representatives, or both, to step forward to the table in front of us, speak into the microphones, identify themselves, present their application without interruption either from members of the committee or the public, after which the committee will be free to make comments and ask questions. Following that, the public, including abutters and other interested members of the public, will be free to speak, and for that purpose you will be standing up to that podium in front of me and addressing it into the microphone, identifying yourself and where you live. So, the first item on the agenda is 23-A126. It's to paint doors and shutters and replace and upgrade fences at 10 Mariners Lane. Catherine Weiner is the owner. And who do we have this evening?
I'm Catherine Weiner.
Weiner.
This is my husband.
Apologies for that.
No worries, no worries. Happens all the time.
Tell us about your application, Catherine.
Application is just, as stated, to redo, currently paint the doors and shutters and then upgrade a current picket fence and to a 4-foot surround, as well as upgrade an existing to a 6-foot cedar. Both going in will be cedar natural, being done by Walpole Fencing. The doors and shutters will be painted if approved by, I picked the Phillipsburg Blue from the historic collection of Benjamin Moore.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Who has the actual chip color?
I don't. I will say that the photocopy that we have, and of course photocopiers are, is dreadful and doesn't look at all like Phillipsburg Blue.
I have one here if you'd like to see.
Oh, great. No, I can see within the range. It's appropriate.
Top? Yes, ma'am.
It's a very handsome color.
That's fine.
It's almost gray.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Yeah, when I was there looking at the existing fence, I wasn't clear to me where you're proposing putting the new fence.
In terms of the split rail or the
Is
okay,
everything
so
going this exact same line as the existing fence, or is it in a
it's not gonna-
different place?
So the existing fence, the split rail is same for same. The existing fence on the east side of the property, abutting 81 and 80, is going to be moved out to the property line. So it's going to be moved about 4 feet out, exactly onto the property line, going straight back to the corner as well. And then the existing fence that is currently there for the rest will be there. It's going to stay in the same place because there's wetlands on the back corner, so it can't be moved.
Okay. So when you say the 80 and, so I'm sorry.
That's
I don't
okay.
know the
So if
numbers.
you
So is it
look
on
at the
this
plot
side-
map,
this
so
side
if
of
you
the
look,
plot
if you're
plan?
facing it's going to be on the east side. So the east side, it's going to come out, currently it goes back and it veers to the left a bit, but we're just bringing it all the way out to the property line and taking that property line straight back to the corner. And then it's going to come in as an angle and we'll meet up with the current 4-foot picket fence that is there. So we're adding, we're going to add a little space and a bed and plantings to the back corner.
So is that where the pool filters are now? You're
The
going to come
pool,
further
the pool
out?
filter is, it's right within the gate now. There's going to be, extra space to the right of it right
Okay,
now.
so you're moving the fence over to the property line on this side of the pool filters?
Yes.
Thank you. I just
Yeah.
want to be clear where it was. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve this application.
I'll second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And aye. So Catherine, if you would come up and sign this document, which simply says if you're thinking of making changes, you'll let us know.
What's that?
So, and you can say, you can date it, or I can. Okay. All right, and you are free to go. Thank you, and good luck with it.
Well, thank you.
Paula?
The next item on the agenda is 23-D004. It's to demolish the rear addition and foundation and deck at 33 Summer Street. Elizabeth and William Rubich are the owners, and W.D. Price, Inc. is the agent. And tell us again, who do we have this evening?
Good evening, Robert and committee. Wesley Price, W.D. Price, Inc., representing William and Elizabeth Rubich on this demolition hearing.
Okay. And there's been a little bit of a history with this application, which you're well aware of, so we're back for the second time. Due to a procedural glitch on our part, for which I take responsibility. So tell us about this application once again for the benefit of the public.
Yeah, very simply, we'd like to remove the entire rear elevation of the dwelling, foundation included, and that's the nature of the application.
And the chimney.
The chimney demolition is actually tabled. We're not going to, that, we did put that on the plan, but we're not moving forward with.
I don't think that's part of this application.
That's true. It may be addressed.
There are two chimneys,
Yeah.
one in the L.
I guess if you're going to speak, you have to come to the mic.
To clarify, the house has two chimneys, one for the furnace that is within the L that we're asking to be demolished.
Okay.
And that would naturally come down. The other chimney, which is for a two-sided fireplace in the front of
The
the
main
house,
house,
would not be changed.
Yep, okay.
Okay, so just to be clear, we're reviewing this application as it's presented. There are no modifications or adjustments to the application. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee?
I do have a question. The new, as you know, I made the model for the, when making the model, it was clear this has to do actually with the front of the house, but it is a demolition of sorts. So I want to ask about it. I don't know if it's more cogent now or later, but are you proposing that that front porch that exists would be also demolished and reconstructed? Because in the model and in the drawing, it actually shows it as being a little bigger, a little wider. It can,
So I don't think that's part of this demo.
Isn't. I don't know if we should talk about it
I
later, but I'm
hesitate
just
to
wondering if it's.
muddy the waters.
No?
Well, we'll save it for the
I'm
latter
happy to
part.
answer that question when we're heard on the,
All right.
I would just voice that I still think it's a shame that you can't work within it and add to it. Again, I don't think there's anything at all sacrosanct about windows, dormers, but the shell itself, I would much rather see that stay because the frame of it, and it be added on to as your architect would see fit. That's my opinion.
Any other questions from the committee?
Well, you did say previous, if I remember correctly, that the rear of that house that you're asking to demolish could be rehabbed.
I was asked directly if my answer to that question was anything can be rehabbed with enough money and energy. I would not suggest rehabbing this, or I would have suggested it to the clients. It is in complete disrepair. The foundation doesn't go below the frost line. It would be prohibitively expensive for anyone to do what you're suggesting, but that doesn't mean it's not possible.
Right.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public?
You should remind them it's the demolition. Nobody's coming up anyways, guess not.
All right, just so for clarification and for the record, this application came before us some weeks ago, and it was for the removal of the top part of the rear addition, and as chairman, allowed the application to be heard, and we approved the demolition by a vote of 4-1. That decision was challenged by appeal. And our committee, I specifically, was reversed by the regional commission because the procedure, and it is clearly outlined in our bulletin, which is our Bible, is to not hear applications that are in any significant way not consistent with what was published and available to the public before the hearing. So the application was remanded back to our committee, which is why we are hearing it tonight. And now that the application is complete and that all members of the public are fully cognizant of every aspect of it, and everyone has had a chance to be heard regarding it, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the demolition of 23-D004.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of approving this application, please signify by saying aye.
No.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
And aye. Motion is carried by a vote of 3-2. If you'd come up and sign this document, which simply says, if you're going to make any further changes, you'll let us know.
Ship stay.
Okay, good luck with it.
Paula?
Maybe somebody's hearing aid.
Go, do you hear this noise?
It might be a hearing aid.
Oh, okay, all right, all right.
Is this coming back this way?
Paula, did you sign it?
I signed it.
The next item on the agenda is 23-A127, exterior painting, install skylights, and replace garage door with French doors at 9 Givestay Road. Jack and Roberta Pierce are the owners, and I would gather we have Jack and Roberta here tonight.
You do.
So please tell us about your application.
Good evening. It's tried to make it pretty straightforward. We would like to change the exterior painting. I did use the historical colors and gave the color chips on our application. We would like to install actually just one skylight in the rear of what is now the garage. So it would be toward the back door, not visible from the road. And replace the garage doors with French doors. And I included the French doors that we have on our back deck as an example of the type of French doors that we would install. And that's pretty much it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the committee?
I have, the front, where are you going to replace them on the garage? Because, of course, the garage door is much wider and probably taller. Will you be removing all of the framing for the garage and just filling it in with, I believe that's shingles, and just trimming out the door?
Yes, the carpenter has, already looked at it and told me that it'll all be done, so that it's proper and the shingles will be filled and,
And will it be centered
yes,
on the, let's say, the peak of the house?
yeah, yes.
Are you turning this into a living area?
An art studio.
Oh, an art studio. Oh, right, just like it says. Okay.
Do you have the gray chip, paint chip?
I have it, I believe it's Wickham Gray.
And it's not reflected here.
Does anybody
Oh,
have
okay.
the real one?
Okay.
Here it comes. She wants to see the chip when you're done with it. It says shed also.
You have a shed in the back, right?
Oh,
You
yes,
paint that also
it'll be
gray.
painted
Right.
to match.
Okay.
Are you leaving the shutters the same color?
Say, well, it'll match the house.
Okay.
Black.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
So do you also have, you're replacing some lights too, correct? Some,
Well,
Carriage lights?
my exterior lights, I also have an image of the light fixture that we got similar to the lighting that's there now, but it's black. And these are just, they're not shiny, they're like a brushed silver, kind of a muted silver, similar style, newer and
okay.
more up to date.
So the one at the door and one in the post, is that right? There's two of them?
They'll all the house lights.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve 23-A127.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And aye. Congratulations. If
Thank you
you'll
very
sign this
much.
document, simply says if you plan on making any changes, you'll let us know.
Who's the artist?
Nice signature. Good luck.
Well, she's an artist.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
The next item on the agenda is 23-A128 to paint shutters and door, add stockade fence, and build a 10 by 12-foot shed at 15 Barnacle Road. Nicholas and Tamara, oh, I'm going to take a shot at this. Papa Christ, oh, you'll have to help me with this. Tell me. Papa Christos.
Papa Karikos.
Okay. Wish I had some Greek heritage. Tell us about your application.
I would just want to add a fence on one side of the property for a little bit more privacy. And it's going to go from the back corner up to the, in line with the garage, not any further. And adding a shed in the back of the lot, staying away from the necessary lot lines, and changing the color of the shutters and the door.
Does anybody have this chip?
I do.
Okay, that's a little
Is that it? Okay.
brighter than I-
Any questions or comments from the committee?
You don't have a plot plan showing us the extent of the fence
that you said.
that I see. It'll go around, obviously, the rear of your property, the sides of your property, and where does it end? Is it going to return to the corner of the house? Because you have it as stepping down. I'm wondering how far forward of the house, if at all, you're intending to place it.
In front of the house, no, it's just going to, in line with the garage.
In line with the garage.
Stop.
Yeah.
That was the
It's
right
gonna be-
answer.
And we're picking it up with the, with the existing.
Oh, wait,
fence
I'm
in the
sorry.
back.
There it is on the very back of it. As I flip it over, I see it here.
There's an existing fence behind us now.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve application 23-A128.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And aye. So as you know by now, if you'll kindly sign this document, simply indicates that if you're going to make any changes, you'll let us know. Right there. Good luck with it.
Yes.
Oh, it's a attachment. Jeez Louise.
You read this already?
Pardon?
Did you read that?
Oh, yeah. I don't hear her so well. No.
And now we move on to the 4 tabled items. The first one is 23-A123 to construct a new single-family dwelling at 63 Thatcher Shore Road. Brian Basler is the owner. James Basler is the agent. And before we hear their presentation, we need to untable this application.
Move to untable item 23-A123.
I'll second.
All in favor of untabling the application?
Aye.
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 And aye. Now, before we hear your presentation, I will again recuse myself because James Basler's son is working for me currently, so I am in conflict, and I must, by law, recuse myself. Before I do so, I'd like to make some brief statements about this application and the previous proceeding. First of all, I watched the video twice, in fact, and I was duly impressed by this example of democracy in action. The fact that everyone who wanted to speak on this subject was allowed to speak, and some very interesting comments and observations were made. I was also duly impressed by this committee and by the way in which the vice chairman conducted the application, the hearing of the application. We are all volunteers here. We believe deeply in the mission of Old Kings Highway, and we strive within the confines of the Act, which is dictated by Massachusetts law, to adhere to the Act in the best interest of our community that we love so much. So, bearing that in mind, I will turn the meeting over to the Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for what you said. Good evening, everyone. If I may, when we left last time, I spoke of the need for me to speak with our attorney about our powers and what we could and couldn't do. So if it's okay with the applicant, I'll inform you of that, but I would like to read first into the record, just so it is here, because we received, dated the 17th, a letter today, before we all start a discussion, a petition really, that I will read into the record. It is dated October 17th, 2023, Old Kings Highway Regional Historic District Town Committee, regarding objection to proposed new construction at 63 Thatcher Shore Road. To the members of the Old Kings Highway Town Committee, the undersigned voice their further objection to and multiple concerns with the proposed new construction on the property located between Gingerbread Lane and Flintlock Way at 63 Thatcher Shore Road, a designated scenic road in Yarmouth pursuant to GL Chapter 40, Section 15C. The undersigned consists of full-time and long-time residents of Gingerbread Lane, Flintlock Way, and the surrounding neighborhood, all of whom share an interest in maintaining our neighborhood's quaint village character and a reasonable expectation that our Old Kings Highway Town Committee, OKH, will protect that character. As a threshold matter, we recognize that one or more processes have previously occurred involving the acquisition of this land and related proposals to build, as evidenced by the new road and utility lines on the property. As interested parties, kindly provide us with copies of all information and documentation related to this process, including any action by the planning board, such as any approvals. It remains unclear to the undersigned whether the execution of any prior approvals has been in conformance with said approvals, such as clear cutting, roadway widening, etc. Of primary significance to the mission of the Old Kings Highway, as set forth in the introduction to the Old Kings Highway Regional Historic Commission Bulletin dated March 1st, 2022, OKH Handbook, is the inappropriate scope of the proposed new construction. As proposed, the new structure is, quote, obviously incompatible, end quote, with the nearby buildings/homes and thus will have a, quote, negative visual impact, end quote, in this OKH district. The proposed new structure is not in keeping with our, quote, quaint little village, end quote, character and does not, quote, capture an appearance of the past, end quote. As proposed, it is incongruous with our neighborhood and the mission of the OKH to protect its character. When determining whether to issue a certificate of appropriateness, this committee is mandated to determine whether the relative size, which is in quotes and bolded, of the proposed building is, quote, appropriate, end quote, in relation to its, quote, immediate surroundings, end quote. OKH Handbook, Section 10. At the OKH meeting on 10/13/23, the person seeking approval, Jim Bassler, as agent, Brian Bassler, owner, not in attendance, represented that the building would maintain, quote, the field, end quote, of the neighborhood. Nothing could be further from the truth regarding this proposed three-story new construction. His representation that the building would be 3,500 square feet was disingenuous, as it did not include the square footage of the full first floor, represented to be a gym and the three-car garage. The actual build, as proposed, would be approximately 5,500 square feet. The abutting properties are two-story Cape-style single-family homes in the range of approximately 1,200 to 1,900 square feet. These quaint homes are the, quote, feel, unquote, of our little neighborhood, not the proposed behemoth, which is way over scale of its abutters and sharply inconsistent with our beautiful, quiet, and quaint neighborhood. Please travel to the proposed build site and look around to confirm the modest size of the properties it abuts. Representation was made that the proposed new construction was on a 2-acre lot. This was also disingenuous and a misrepresentation of fact. We understand 63 Thatcher Shore to be a 1.86 acre lot with a certain amount consisting of land directly behind houses along Route 6A. This acreage has been beautiful woods behind the very historic homes along 6A for hundreds of years. These woods contribute to the neighborhood charm, and any build of this lot must minimize impact on these woods. Though not indicated in the plans, some clear cutting has already occurred. Much more will be needed for the proposed huge new construction, completely destroying the ambiance and charm of this neighborhood with regrettable impact on the conservation, local plant and animal species in an area of suspected wetlands. A butter's view of woodland will be irreparably altered, by allowing the proposed large and out of proportion three-story construction virtually in their backyards. Subsequent to the acquisition, without notice to abutters, the builder put a road within inches of abutters' property lines with utter disregard of abutters. The abutters invite you to travel up this road and see how close the road is to their patios, decks, backyards, and consider its impact on their ability to and right to enjoy their property in peace and quiet. Abutters cannot conceive how the proposed construction and its related use of this new road will not interfere with their right to quiet enjoyment of their property. Over the past year or so, the neighborhood, but especially the abutters on Gingerbread Lane, have been subject to the noise of this builder's other new construction of an enormous incongruous structure at 33 Thatcher Shore Road and the related incessant large truck traffic on their little lane. With this proposal, trucks will be banging by the front and rear of their homes just inches away from their cherished backyard activities. In 2011, a prior owner of this land proposed a new construction on this property. Among the OKH concerns at the time was the size and siting of the proposed construction, and then parenthetically, a barn to be used as an artist studio/storage that would run with proposed owner's home on 6A, but be built close to abutters. And parentheses, such a large, according to the OKH minutes of March 14th, 2011, a former OKH member, quote, question the appropriateness of such a large building in this setting, end quote. This issue of scale and size continues with the current proposal. The inability of emergency response vehicles to access it via the long, narrow, ancient way available from a driveway was also a concern. It is unclear to the undersigned whether these issues have been resolved and how, without encroaching on conservation land on one side or property owners' rights on the other. And then a quote. Quote, all plans submitted for approval should be prepared to scale and clearly drawn so the committee can know from looking at such plans exactly what the applicant intends to do, end quote. OKH Handbook Guidelines, comma, introduction. An accurate proposal, quote, showing the exact location of the proposed building, ... and indicating what landscape or planting, if any, is to be done, is needed and is an indication of, quote, proposed tree cutting, clearing, and landscaping. OKH Handbook Guidelines, comma, 7A and E. The plot plan provided for the proposal for the OKH Committee on 10/11/23 did not meet this criteria. It was also inaccurate, as it indicated, an inaccurate plot line that encroached well over the property line of a 6A abutter. Interested parties have a right to an accurate and complete description of what is being proposed, which the current proposal does not provide. Multiple abutters and other interested parties who attended the Old Kings Highway meeting on 10/11/23 were shocked to learn that OKH was entertaining the possibility of a 3-story dwelling with a 3-car garage of over 5,000 square feet with a sprinkler system, that's in quotes, to get around emergency vehicles access concerns being constructed in our backyard behind our modest Cape-style homes. The undersigned appreciate that the Old Kings Highway Committee, following the public comment at its 10/11/23 meeting, decided to table the proposal, recognizing the extreme concern of all neighbors, but for one, and intimating that a vote at the time may not be that a vote at the time may not be favorable to the proposal. We ask that you continue to hear our voices and recognize our valid concerns. The proposed new construction is not to scale with its neighborhood homes. It is simply further degradation of this quaint neighborhood we all cherish. Almost there. We understand that certain of these concerns we raised here are not directly within the purview of the Old Kings Highway and may be better addressed with fire, building, conservation, and health departments. The concerns are valid nonetheless and should be of importance to each of the departments involved in the approval processes so that approvals are not rendered in a vacuum. We moved to this Old Kings Highway neighborhood believing that the Old Kings Highway would maintain our neighborhood's charm. We hope our confidence was not misplaced. Do not issue a certificate of appropriateness on the current proposal. Too many out-of-place large homes have recently been built in our surrounding neighborhood. Help us maintain the charm of our quaint little village going forward. The applicant's disturbing disregard of abutters and disingenuous presentation on October 11th, 2023 are factors to be considered. Okay. As a way forward, we suggest the builder submit an accurate and complete proposal that conforms in size and scope to the neighboring properties, and that includes clear cutting and landscaping, stake or flag the lot, stake or flag the entirety of the perimeter, the height of the ridge at the proposed structure to show its footprint so that abutters and interested parties are not required to visualize the proposed structures in the abstract and consider involving abutters prior to any future formal hearing to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings and continued strong opposition at public hearings. Respectfully yours, the undersigned neighbors and abutters of 63 Thatcher Shore Road. I won't read them all, but there are 52 of them. So if I could, and again, I appreciate your patience, tell you about my conversation. So at the last meeting, you'll recall that I looked and thought, in fact, I do believe, and I wanted to consult, that scale and size was something that we could consider. And that is true. And I spoke with our lawyer. But I also, in researching it after, found another part of this, which pertains to our ability, our purview. So let me cite these sections for you. So forgive me. So, under our powers, Section 10, powers, functions, and duties of the committee. In passing upon appropriateness, the committee shall consider, among other things, it goes through things that, the committee shall consider settings, relative size of buildings and structures. But in two other places it says one other thing. But shall not consider detailed designs, interior arrangements, and other building features not subject to public view. Now, if we go forward beyond our powers, there is a section in our law that relates to exemptions. And I will read from this. And I had, again, and I will tell you, and you'll bear with me, please. I really don't want to be garrulous, but I played devil's advocate to a lot of this, and I asked a lot of questions of the attorney, just to make sure, because I knew you all would have questions about it, as I did. But let me read exemptions. 3.04, exemptions. An exemption can apply in 3 situations. The first is when property is located within an exempt area and no documentation is required from the applicant except for the application of a certificate of exemption. The second is when the feature is not within view from a public way, sorry, let me correct that because that's very important, not in view from a way or public place, and only a site plan is required along with the exempt application for a certificate of exemption. So, the reality is, this is not visible from a way or public place. So I, again, knowing I know you all have questions, so I said to the lawyer, so how many people, if they object, if they are unhappy, certainly more here, 52 than were here at the last meeting, make it public? At what point does an individual's concern make it a public concern? And the lawyer told me, our lawyer said, it is not. A private, one is not entitled to their private view. So no number of people can turn a concern into a public. It has to be visible because the act, as it was explained to me, was principally, it was made 50 years ago, made to deal with aesthetics from the street, which is a frustration of mine, quite frankly, as it relates to preservation. But that is the purpose of the act. So, for example, you want solar panels on the back of your house? If it fits within the exemption, which we won't need to get into here in terms of color of your roof, et cetera, and it doesn't face 6A or the street, you're entitled to an exemption. We have no purview over it. But you might add, what about the person behind me and the person behind them, on either side of them, and the person to the side? There are 5 people, if we live on a parallel street, that all view the house, that all view my solar panels, that none of you want to see. Well, sorry, you're not entitled to a view. In the same way, if someone buys the lot in front of you on the water and wants to build a house, it's not your property. No one is entitled to their view. So that's where we are. And the reality is, and I know you're all disappointed to hear it, this applicant is entitled to an exemption, Now, because of the concerns that we have, and the lawyer did say this to me, we always make people for something this big come before us for a certificate of appropriateness. I mean, I do all the exemptions for this committee. There are many sheds and other little things, fences, that all conform, that I get, that never come before this committee because they're entitled to an exemption, the color of them, the size of them, where they are. And they just, they meet the exemption, I approve them. Otherwise, we'd be here for a lot of time. So while we are, in fact, entitled to talk about the scale and size of a house, this gentleman's application is exempt. It is not visible from a public view. And again, I'm going to say, so what about I'm driving by and I can see it? I can see it between the house, between the garage. That doesn't matter. What if all the trees, I asked this question too, there are trees that are on conservation land. Let's say they burn down tomorrow. Let's say blight kills them all. And then you can see the house. Now you'll see it from Thatcher Shore Road. We have to rule, and we make our decisions based on the information we are given at that time. So the fact that you might be able to crane your neck from 6A and see a little bit of the house doesn't matter. So as frustrating as it might be for you all, and I apologize sincerely for bringing this news to you, we are not empowered to act on this other than to have a procedural vote to approve it. We have no say. It's the same thing. We can't rule on, what's the acceptable color of an automobile in America. It is beyond our purview. So I'm very happy. Of course, the applicant will speak first if they choose to. And we are very happy to hear all your further concerns if you wish to have them. But I understand the deep frustration that you're all feeling if you're unhappy with this. But it is simply, we cannot do anything more. This gentleman is entitled to an exemption by the law, is when the feature is not within view of a way or public place. That applies to this application. Now, the fact that a committee in the past missed that, well, that's unfortunate, but that is the law. So I won't go on any longer, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have of me. But first, I'll turn it to the applicant if you wish to speak in any way. Sir.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I am Peter Freeman, Freeman Law Group in Yarmouthport. I'm representing the applicant, and Jim Basler is here. And just by way of background, some of you may know me, but it was a long time ago, but I actually was chairman of Old Kings Highway Regional Committee in Barnstable for a long time, and I served very enjoyably on the regional commission, so I heard a lot of appeals. So I mention that only to show you and tell you that I care deeply about the historic district just as you do. And quite frankly, over the years, since I was heavily involved, at times people have asked me to represent them on a certificate of appropriateness or an appeal to the regional commission, and I've done that sometimes, but very candidly, I have refused at times because I really couldn't feel in good conscience that I supported the appropriateness. So in this case, I sincerely do believe that it is appropriate. Now let me comment briefly on your explanation after consulting with Mr. Wilson. I largely agree, but I think out of caution, because one could question, like you said, where do you view, is it viewable or not? And I think that's why my client applied for a certificate of appropriateness. And I will go through a few things which I believe will support your voting in favor of granting a certificate of appropriateness, given what you said, and we can certainly talk about it after our presentation and any public comment, but I would suggest that if you're inclined to want to make a finding that it is exempt, that's okay, but then as we often do in the law, we say, but out of caution, we will discuss the certificate of appropriateness, and again, I would urge you, obviously, to make findings that would support the granting of a certificate of appropriateness. So that's kind of background, and again, I very much appreciate what you said. And I will also just briefly comment on the neighbor's letter and on what the chairman, who had to recuse himself, said. Being an attorney, I see arguments and disagreements all the time, and I sincerely respect neighbors' input. I wasn't at the first hearing, but from what was said, it was a proceeding where people could express themselves. And then tonight you read the letter. I was able to get a copy of the letter. and I was going to go over it in some detail, and I might still, but I would say a few things to you. Their own letter at the end said that they realized that a lot of what they said is not really within the domain of Old Kings Highway, and they're right. A lot of those factors, previous applications, the driveway, although, by the way, the driveway was built as approved, the subdivision was approved, so I don't see any issue there, even if it were relevant. There are also some factual errors in that letter. It repeatedly said 3 stories. It's not a 3-story building. They might have thought that on the back facade, because there's a walkout basement and it showed some windows, but that's not 3 stories. It very clearly, as you folks can see, that it's a 2-story building. They also talk about size, and the relevant thing is footprint. I don't think even taking the whole second floor and basement of the house, it's 5,500 square feet. But even if it were, candidly, that's irrelevant because it's the footprint in terms of, comparable scale and fitting into the neighborhood. So I would just point that out. Jim went over it with me today. I think one of the plans might have shown that the house on the first floor, the footprint, including the barn, by the way, which is the garage, but it looks like a barn, which I think is a nice historical feature. The footprint is actually just under. Mr. Chairman, if you could ask the people, don't interrupt me.
Yeah. If I didn't hear that, but please do allow him. I promise you, all of you, every one of you, will have an opportunity to speak and say whatever you wish.
Thank you very much. So the footprint is actually just under 3,000 square feet. And in terms of the size question, I have a few things, and I can demonstrate with a handout in a minute from the assessor's map. But the length of the house, and again, when people look at facades, elevations, two-dimensional, sometimes it's hard to read. But as you know from the site plan and the footprint, and I'll also hand in the actual building plan, the footprint of the first floor, it has jigs and jogs. The massing, I think, is nicely broken up, which is one of the guidelines for Old Kings Highway. So it's not monotonous. It's not massing-wise out of scale, being 2 stories. And the house itself is only 74 feet long, and then where it jogs out a little bit more in the front for the barn, I keep calling it barn, but it's a garage that looks like a barn, is another 26 feet. So, that's only a total of 100 square feet. And I dare say that's not really that large. And the business about the size of the lot is also a factor. It is precisely 1.86 acres, but that's a fairly large lot for that area. And the factor from the sections that you read in the Old Kings Highway statute are correct. I was going to cite those, frankly, but you now have made it so that I don't need to read those. Thank you for that. And, it's not viewable from a public view. There may be questions as to whether, it's on a way that is private but still may give jurisdiction. Candidly, that's why I say I'd prefer to have you make, and I hope you would approve a certificate of appropriateness, but since I'm asking you to do it, if you were to vote otherwise, I still would say that we want a vote on the certificate of appropriateness. So with the size of that lot and the way it's located, it's not very visible, probably not visible. I understand the neighbors on Gingerbread especially are concerned, but it is, again, with the facts that are erroneous in their statement, I think it behooves you to consider what the building really is, and that it's not, in our opinion, out of scale in any way. It's a cape, it has dormers, it's well-scaled, well-balanced. And by the way, living so close, I live in Comaquid, I walk, if not every week or weekend, down Thatcher Shore Road, parking at Water Street, and stand there in awe of our beauty with the ocean and the marsh, and then walk up and down Thatcher Shore Road. And years ago, I used to jog up and down Thatcher Shore Road, but those days are gone. But in any case, so I say that only not to personalize, but to say I really do truly know the area very, very well. And without even looking at the assessor's map, which I'll show you in a minute, which has footprints of buildings, of houses, I can think of many that are bigger. I'm not sure of the exact size of the Marshallton house that's beautiful and down close to the water. Further down in the vicinity roughly of 125, it's the other side of the street from 125. But there's a large house that has the windmill that was rebuilt by Bayside Building a number of years ago. That's very large. There's another house that I don't know the number that I think is a beautiful view. It's probably a little more contemporary in style, but it looks out on the marsh, and in fact, there's a vacant piece of grass on the opposite side of Thatcher Shore Road, right opposite that house, and I always think, boy, this would be a great place to put up a tent and have a wedding. So, and then the house, that's a colonial revival, that's behind a pond. I think it's a man-made pond. I don't know if they have koi fish. I can't remember. But that's quite a large house. So I won't go on and on, but in reality, I do think that it's, somewhat overly dramatic and simply factually incorrect to say that it's way out of scale and doesn't fit in. So let me I'll stay at the microphone and tell you what I'm going to hand out, but I had Jim take a copy or copies of the assessor's map, and I circled the lot in question, and he imposed the footprint, so it's not the assessor that has put the footprint, just to be clear, on this particular lot, and I circled it. But the other footprints that I think support what I just said are from the assessor's map. And I don't have square footages. I didn't have enough time, having just been retained, and I'm not sure that the square footages are even necessary, because you can tell from just looking at them, with your eyes, that this house doesn't stand out as particularly large compared to the ones that we have shaded in pink. So now I'll give those to you.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Can't talk till I get back.
Very much.
I might have one in my bag.
The first two sheets are from Thatcher Shore Road area.
Thank you.
Lisa, all set.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry. Thank you, Lisa.
These two are not that far away, but they're kind of across the street on the,
These are different. All this and this is different.
Yes, two separate sheets are different.
All right.
And as I say, on the first sheet, unless it's not flipped to the.
No, I left them. I left them correct.
That's the,
So you are, am I correct? You are showing in pink highlight homes that are of the same size or larger.
Yes. Yes. So, all right, so that's one handout, and I
The
said,
first one. The second one was the same thing, but a different area.
it's different, it's also Thatcher Shore Road.
Okay.
Wasn't able to get all of them on the same,
Goes around. Here's
And then this, although you have the footprint on the site plan, but as I mentioned, this is the actual with the dimensions on it. First floor layout, which shows the jigs and jogs that I mentioned, and it also shows the lengths, which on the front of the house itself, as I said, add up to 74 feet, and then the 26 feet of the garage on the side. So I don't know if you have this yet, but I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pass that around.
If I may ask one more time, the size of the house is, the living space in the house is, not the garage, the living space is what? I did not have, I have not seen this.
It actually shows it, although Jim tells me that I think the first floor is a little less than what shows it in the bottom right.
Okay, first 2131, a total of 3,347 square feet, 2,131 on the first floor, 1,216 on the second floor, total of 3,347. And by the way, if I can I just want to add something in, because I mentioned at the last meeting, if you don't mind. I advised you all there was a film festival in Chatham last week that spoke about the largeness of things. The film was called One Big House. I don't know if any of you went. I'd advise you to see it if you can. I'm going to try to get that film shown here. It concerns on Martha's Vineyard over the size of homes, and a builder who effectively said, that's it, I'm going to make films about the size of homes. Because he thought they were building these monstrous homes and ruining the character, the thing you were all concerned about. It took some time. Originally, they tried to get this thing passed. It died. Builders objected. About 10 years later, finally, they got to a point where they mobilized and actually passed an ordinance, because there was like a 17,000 or 13,000 square foot home. I'll tell you, the ordinance they passed in Martha's Vineyard restricts the size of a house to no greater than 3,500 square feet. And they considered that a great success. So my point of pointing that out is, that was the size which is actually larger than this house. This house would be would be buildable. So it is not a giant house. How many, would you mind, one of you, counting, just so we can read into the record, how many pink slashes there are on these drawings?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have
Just the
7
two
on these.
pages?
7 there.
Those are the ones that are, was it North Summer Street on the other side of 6A, so they're not quite as close,
I have
but
4 pages, but
Yes.
only 2 of them are what we're counting.
Well, this is no, 4, they're different areas.
Are these, so there's 7 on these.
And there's the other ones.
Yeah. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 10, 11.
There's a second page.
These are on the other side of Route 6.
Yes. But they're within the district, I think is the point.
Right, they are.
They're within the district, and then this is the other side. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 homes of about the same size. So, please, no, we mustn't interrupt. Well, I'm sorry, there must be decorum and order. There has to be decorum and order, folks. I'm sorry.
Get up there and say something.
This gentleman is not finished with his presentation.
Tell him to hurry up.
No, that is inappropriate. Please, I wish I had a gavel. Well, I do, and I'm the chairman at this point. We must be civil to one another, please. Sir, please continue.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. So, in addition to that factor, in terms of the relative size, and again, really from the section that the chairman, acting chairman, read from in section 10 of the act itself, if you look at all the factors, the materials, they're wood clapboard on the front and wood shingles on the side. The roof pitch is way over the 7 by 12. You can see the steepness. The dormers conform to, I forget if it's in the guidelines themselves, but, when we teach historic preservation and with Old Kings Highway, dormers fit in, they're not out of scale. The roof line and the size of the house. The height is not in any way too high. It's under 30, I think it's 33 feet roughly, and as I said, it is 2 stories. The jigs and jogs and, the colors, I think the sheet that
Please,
has...
people, stop talking. Let this gentleman make his presentation. I've promised you all the ability to speak, and we'll stay here till midnight if we have to, for you to say what you have to say. But he is entitled to present his application without interruption or murmurings. It's just not right. Please.
Chairman, I was just referring to the Martha's Vineyard example you gave.
No, but I mean, all of you, there's a lot of little murmurings, and I wasn't singling out anyone. You can hear it up here, so please. I'm sorry, sir. Please continue.
Thank you again, I appreciate that. And again, the other factors are the color and the basic design. As I say, a Cape style, really, and an attractive barn-like garage, which I know I've said many times. But the color, I think, on the color rendering, it's a little bit, deceiving because it seems like a kind of bright green. But it really is a fairly typical, dark green roof material, again, with a very steep roof pitch, all of which are the main characteristics, if you will, amongst the many styles. Obviously, there's Greek Revival in our historic district. There's Victorian, not too many. There's many colonials and Georgian and all of those styles which we all love. We all share that. And this is a Cape. Now, I will also say that, oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was my microphone.
Not you.
That's Paula. You're hitting the microphone, Paula. Sorry. That's all right.
Thank you. One of the first things also is that, any historical elements to the building involved itself, but of course there isn't any because it's a vacant lot. So, it's in some ways, I think, perhaps a little easier to deal with a building that's proposed on a vacant lot. And then related to that, which is probably near the end of the remarks I want to make, other than a few comments on the neighbor's letter, the relationship, again, all of that to the surrounding area, it's in the middle of a 1.86 acre lot. It's, I think, 700 feet from Thatcher Shore Road, roughly. I think that way is about 700 feet. Is that what it is, Jim? So it's really, quite far away. So I think with all of those factors, we really comply with all of the guidelines and standards. And in terms of those things, I would say one thing that I recall discussing a lot, and it might be case law, including some Old Kings Highway cases, which I am familiar with, one of the purposes for new construction is we don't have to mimic. Everything doesn't have to be a particular historic style, but we want, through the factors that we both read, we want the house to be evocative of the historic district. And I truly think that this house is, with a steep roof pitch and the Cape style and the barn-like garage. So I think that's very important, evocative, and I think that is a key factor. And because you did read the letter, which I understand, I would just like to say a few things. The most important are that there were some mistaken facts, I'm sure, just unintentional, but that there were some mistaken facts. Talking about the acquisition history, that, as you know, is irrelevant. And not meaning to be critical of the neighbors, just because I think it's important to focus on what the chairman and I just went through with the actual guidelines and standards. The statements there are really just conclusory. They don't back up why they say it's out of scale. And so they're just conclusory, and I don't think that that's really helpful to any committee or quasi-judicial body when they're trying to make determinations. And, other factors such as previous applications, putting the way in, which again was in compliance with the permission from the planning board. Those are the main things that I would just, remind you are not really within your purview. And again, I think that they're largely erroneous in terms of the conclusions that they're making. So, I'll certainly stop there. Either Jim or I can answer questions that you folks may have. I understand that
So, Councilor, if I might ask you are asking then on its merits, while I read about that, you would like us to review, and we did speak of the application before the comments last time, as is always the case with us, but ultimately you would like an outright vote on the House for its merits alone. Yes.
On appropriateness, yes.
On appropriateness.
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right, certainly. Are you done, sir?
Yes.
So, folks, please, all of you, any of you who wish to speak, please do. I just ask. I know when you're frustrated, the tensions are high, and I understand the passions you all have. Again, we all volunteer because of our passion for it here, so we truly understand. So please just try to keep it in that vein, and come on up and, you know the drill. State your name and speak.
Want to do that before you hear from the committee members?
Well, we did speak before, but do you want to speak again on it now?
I had follow-up because...
All right, then we'll do that.
Let's speak. Let us speak.
You want to speak first? All right, then, because you did. All right, then I'm sorry. I apologize. I jumped the gun.
members
So I know he had
first.
spoken last time. So please, open it up to comments.
Thank you. So one of the concerns that was voiced was, is this the first notification that we get? And is that appropriate? Is that proper? Is that the process? So I sought out the planning department, Kathy Whitelaw, and we sat together, and Williams, I beg your pardon, and she said, yes, that is the first notification that the abutters are going to get is for the Old Kings Highway Historic. And then I followed up with her, well, is there anything wrong with this proposal? And not in terms of the visuals, but in terms of the size, where it's located, the size of the road, many of the things that you're concerned about. She said that it's all been done properly. It's a large lot. He can build that house on that large lot. So that's from the planning department, just to give you not a verbatim quote, but I did check with her to find out how did this come about, and it's all being done properly. That said, based on that and based on what we've heard from our chair, I believe that the proper decision on my part is going to be to let this app go by, approve the appropriateness.
Mrs. Ecker?
I do not have any comments at the moment.
Well, my question is, how, with all your work that you've done, I can't make the assumption that this house can't be seen from Gingerbread Lane. And that's what, thank you, sorry. I hate to throw shade on this, but I'm sorry, please. That changes a lot, in my opinion. And when I've went up and down Gingerbread Lane like 5 times this afternoon, and I could see where the driveway is. It's not a road, first of all, folks, okay? It's a driveway. It looked like the stakes were very close to the edge of the property line. If I'm looking at it, it's right on the property line. So when the applicant says that the house is 700 feet from Thatcher Shore Road, how far is it from Gingerbread Lane?
The lot line is 71 feet.
71 feet to the lot line, and then
And
it
their
looks
lot
like
might
maybe
be another
another
70.
80 feet, maybe 150 feet? Would you guess?
I can pass, I
180
can
feet?
hand into you the actual definitive subdivision plan signed by the planning board, which shows that way, and it shows that it is right up against the lot line of the houses on Gingerbread. Now, that's the way, that's not.
I don't know how big the lots are on Gingerbread. They're pretty
Understood, but
small,
let me, since you asked about that, let me hand it in. But then I would also say, which I neglected to mention, that the closest point of the house, which is at an angle, it's not facing the street, it's at an angle, and the closest house is the closest distance, rather, to the nearest house on Gingerbread, at the closest point, which is only one corner of the house, is about 71 feet, it appears, to the.
71 feet according to this, but
Right,
what
right.
what I don't know is, I'm not convinced that it can't be seen from Gingerbread Lane.
They've asked for us to rule
that-
on the
to that-
merits
to
of it,
that-
so
Yeah,
speak to
sure,
that.
and to that point, that's why, out of caution, we would like action on our request for approval of certificate of appropriateness. So I share that thought.
Right.
I'll just show you this for the record.
Sure. Thank you.
If we were making a decision on an exemption, I don't know that would be discussed, so please, I think we should speak on the merits of it as a design.
As it is. Right. Okay.
Which we did do last
What,
time here.
my other concern is that this is the only,
You don't have the front elevation?
no.
Oh, it's right here. We have it.
Yeah, we all have it.
Yes. Have it. Here,
Do you need more?
I have right and left.
I have it right here. Here you are, John.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is the same that I have.
That's not the front
Well, then there's another one there.
That is this one, sorry, I thought I was giving you the right one. There it is, yes.
Okay, thank you. Just, if everyone could just excuse me for a few seconds here to, this was not made available to me.
You actually can vote.
Bingo, yes.
Just hit me.
Yeah, good.
So from the ground level, the height of the roof is
To the top of the barn, I think it's about 31 feet.
31 feet?
That's the
okay.
highest point.
All right.
It's also not built, the foundation is about 18 inches above the existing grade,
I saw that, yeah.
so it's not like we're putting the house up 6 feet and filling around it. It'll
Right.
nestle into the original grade as well as possible. And the lot does slope off there where the windows in the back of the cellar are. It slopes off in that direction.
The
We
land
won't be-
land
we won't-
already slopes off?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
more or less. I mean, we'll
Yeah. I understand. Okay.
And again, it's board and batten on the garage.
on the barn, right?
But all sides, correct? Front, back, side.
Just the front,
The front, and then
The back and the right side are shingles.
The complete length of the house was what? You said it before, I'm sorry, I didn't write it down.
That's all right. 100, it's 74, the house itself, and then with the jog for the barn is 26.
Okay. Well, unless I'm convinced otherwise, I think it can be seen from Gingerbread Lane.
But it's appropriate, so.
You think it's what, John?
So I think it can be seen from Gingerbread Lane, so, but they are asking for a
They're asking
certificate of
for-
appropriateness.
Yeah, they're asking not for us to rule on whether it's exempt. They're asking us to rule on the merit of it as a design within our
Exactly.
guidelines.
Okay,
So,
I'm satisfied with that. I'm satisfied with that now. Now I have more, I needed more information.
it helps to see the front and back.
Yes.
I do have something to say, and I'm so thoroughly torn about this, thoroughly torn. And my problem really isn't so much the house, although I do think it's big. 74 feet is more than twice the width of my house. And then you've got 26 more, but it's catty corner on the lot. The driveway alone, now we talked about emergency vehicles getting down there. We talk about any vehicle getting down there, to be honest with you. The closeness of it, it is literally 6 inches away from an abutter's deck. 6 inches,
The driveway?
yes. Well, maybe a foot.
Really?
I'll give it a foot.
No, I think you're right.
And then you talk about the noise, the construction, the whatever. All of those things, including the road, there's nothing that we can do about the noise,
No, we
the
can't.
construction, the trucks, the road. So all we're left with is the place where the house is going to go. I think it's a bit too big for where it's at. I also think for the fact that it's white instead of natural gray cedar shingles, which would blend right into the landscape. You wouldn't even notice it. But to rule on the merits of the house itself, I don't know. I mean, all you have to do is look at the house down the street, the greenhouse, which is twice the size of this one, and there it sits, all done. So, to be honest, I think the road is a travesty, and I think the abutters have every right to be completely crazed about that. But the noise is going to be gone as soon as it's built. Construction vehicles will be gone. The house will be sitting there, done. As I said, I think the option of gray cedar shingles would make it a more palatable thing to do. With 52 people not happy here, and I understand what you said, that we don't have a right to a private view. I understand that. That's true. You don't have a right to, infinity to the sky either. But I don't know. I'm so torn. I've got friends and neighbors over there, and I've listened to them, and I feel for them. But I think, to be honest, I think the house is the least of the problems. I think the driveway and the narrowness of the driveway and the proximity of the driveway to these people's homes is ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. And just a little further, I have a huge house being built on my street. Railroad Ave. Huge houses being built there. And all day long, all I'm hearing is trucks going back and forth and bang, bang with the rivet guns and whatever. But I know that that's going to end soon. What isn't going to end for these people is the proximity of this driveway to their home. And yes, I suppose you could say that if you have a house in a driveway and your neighbor has a house and a driveway. That's pretty close, too. So, I don't know. I'm just so torn about this, and
Well, I don't think
I just,
you have anything that you could deny it.
no, that's what I'm saying. I just think,
And,
given, and I agree with that, because I did learn that in law school, that you don't have a right to a private
Right.
view. I understand
Yeah,
that.
you know,
Maybe this is the first time everybody's hearing this, but it's true, you don't. Just like he brought up the situation where you build a beautiful, buy a house and have beautiful water view, and somebody builds a house right at the end of the street. There goes your water view. Done.
We
No
have,
control over that.
Unfortunately, the noise law in Yarmouth, I believe, starts at 7 and ends at 11.
But even so, the noise will
Like
be
to see
gone.
that change.
The noise is not gonna be an issue as soon as this place is finished.
Well-
And the big trucks or the construction, whatever.
Well, if any of you know where my son lives now, he has the nicest property in the subdivision.
If I,
The
Mr.
nicest landscaped house in the neighborhood. He keeps it,
I don't know which house that is.
he lives on Minnetoxet Way in Yarmouth Port.
Mr. Chairman, just through you, just a couple of comments, because I certainly understand what's been said. A couple of things. As I said, the reason I handed in the subdivision plan is the planning board did approve it that way. So, it's not by choice, it's a narrow, what we would call a pork chop lot, and it was approved, so I can understand that perhaps people aren't happy, but it's approved, and it's also, as you know, and as I think the chairman said, it's not within the purview. More importantly, though, we appreciate the suggestion, and I just checked with my client. We would be happy to accept the condition or the approval with the weathered gray clapper, would it be, or shingles?
Shingles.
Shingles on this, yeah, I mean, if that's something.
Not the clapboard in the front. I think
Not
you're
the
talking
clapboard in
about
the front, the shingles,
Side
yeah.
and back, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the whole house, to be honest with you. I think
Well, I
that
mean,
would be a
the
major improvement.
Yeah, I mean, that, my client would agree to the weathered gray shingles, and and Jim, you can say no.
49 arborvitaes along the side of gingerbread houses. That'd be beautiful.
Where are you suggesting the front of the house which faces Gingerbread Lane, where the 63 where the front door is? Right?
Well, the shingles is what could be weathered, the clapboard
Right.
typically, but, so, I don't know if you'd agree to a different color, a gray color?
Would that be a deal breaker? I mean,
I don't think it's a problem. I think once this house is built and landscaped, the neighbors aren't even gonna see it. It may take a few years for trees to grow up, but,
are they gonna all be dead by then?
I mean, that would eliminate the
I don't
Well,
mean to
ju-
be
ju-
crass, but
Just going back to the suggestion, I just want you folks to know that if you feel it's
Open to
appropriate to a color change, the grayish, that would be fine.
I think that would be a
would be fine.
huge
The barn, what
concession.
about the barn? The batten boards are staying gray anyway, right?
I would leave those.
Natural or staying gray?
Oh, they would be painted, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm the only one that hasn't spoken so far, so I will now. Then we'll turn it to the public. Well, I haven't spoken about my opinion on it. I've spoken about, but on its merits. I spoke the first time we met on it, and again, it's been, being an architect, it's very difficult to read drawings. They're flat. They're a flat projection. They're not even a projection. They're flat. And it should be very difficult. And as I think I said the first time, it is a big house. Would I prefer to see it a little smaller? Sure, yeah. But I don't think it's I really don't think it's monstrous. In a barn, the character of the barn, we just sadly, I think you'll all agree, right there at the end of Thatcher Shore Road, lost a giant barn that you couldn't build today. That's pretty magnificent and now gone. So barns often were large, and I think just differentiating it with a board and batten siding helps to further break down the scale, which I spoke of last time. Do I think the back's a little fussy? maybe with a few too many windows, sure, but I don't think it is egregious, and I really don't. And as a house, again, do I think it could be smaller? People want larger homes now. Do I think it's unnecessary personally? Yeah, but it's not my property and it's not my home. And I think smaller is better. But you know, I think the average home in the 50s was like 900 square feet. No one can even go to the bathroom in a house that big anymore. So these things change, but I don't think this house is of an egregiously large size. It's really in the center of the lot. As for the drive, I drove up there today, twice, and I honestly was expecting some, from what I heard last time, so because I hadn't driven up the driveway, some really dreadful kind of plowing where I was going to see this cut edge of soil and roots sticking out and trees that are doubtless going to die. I didn't see that. I did see, I know the lady who was here last time when she said she was right there and her terrace was right against it, and I hadn't, picked out the house on the plan. It's an existing non-conforming lot. The house, it's right on top of the back of the house. A house that today wouldn't be able to be built that close to the back.
Right.
It would not meet the zoning ordinance. It doesn't meet the setback. But of course, it was built in a time when that wasn't there. So it got to be built that close to the back. So, I also, I understand the desire, and I am in agreement with most of you that homes are bigger than they need to be. But I don't think this house is egregiously large. And I just don't. For what is being built now and for the context of what's happening around it. And so, again, I want you to know, for all of us, I know I speak for all of us, this is very difficult for us. I mean, we all volunteer to do this, and it's tough. We do it because we care and we want to do the best for the town as well. So please, our motivations are really pure. They genuinely are. And it's a difficult thing, but at some point it becomes a matter of what one can do with one's property that isn't, there are a lot of new houses going up that I think are just dreadful. Ugly, ill-proportioned, monstrous masses that are maybe 1,000 square feet smaller than this. I don't think this house qualifies. So now I will turn it over, and to people, I think we're done here. Please.
Is that for me? Oh, no. Paul Galvin, 25 Gingerbread Lane in Yarmouth Port. Just something to come up apropos to nothing I was going to say, but in the last discussions, I'm realizing we have a 100-foot house with a 20-foot frontage, and most of us couldn't build if we didn't have a 100-foot frontage. Again, apropos to nothing, but it shows the whole craziness of this whole situation. Mr. Stewart, I'm glad I didn't call the police on you when I saw you going up and down Gingerbread today, but I appreciate your taking that effort because it's true. One of my questions I was going to come up with before you spoke, sir, is show me in the definitions, show me anywhere it's explained that street view is only from Thatcher Shore Road or wherever the property is located. And I agree with Mr. Stewart. To me, a street view is from a street to see something that's out of scale with the neighborhood. And that's what we have here, if I may. Yeah. I understand you're in favor of this totally, and that's fine. That's
I'm actually not totally, but just, we're not ruling on exemption. So that's off the board.
So what do we do? So I understand that.
Appropriateness of the house design itself. So the idea of whether it's visible from the street is off the table.
Here.
So,
because
we're an architectural review board. That's all we do. That's what we are. We review the architecture that the applicant is presenting to us, and we listen to
in the size, scope, conformance to the neighborhood has nothing to do with your charge.
No, it does.
Oh, yes, it does.
Then I'm lost, and I'm a pretty smart guy, but I am lost, and I'm lost by what has happened in the last couple of weeks. I understand We're seeing an homage to John Mellencamp with little pink houses shown everywhere and drawings that have, none of those houses that were shown or talked about, which none of the abutters have seen any of these drawings, and somehow the attorney has a letter that was just turned in today to the committee. But all those houses that are pointed out don't have 15 or 20 small capes surrounding them. They're sitting on 4, 5 acres, 3 acres of land. And I know what's going to happen here. And I know that my comments here are probably going to fall on deaf ears. But I'm wondering what the value of this committee is if a situation like this with 50-some-odd people against it and the hands are thrown up. I'm done.
Jason Bell, 152 Route 6A, one of the abutters. So I was here a couple of weeks ago, and there was a discrepancy that came up around the lot line. So with that, we had been caught off guard because it looked like there was claim to either a third of an acre or the entirety of our, or a third of our property or the entirety of it. And you had a comment, you know, that sounds like something for the planning board or, you know, something like that. So obviously, you know, we were caught off guard. We went back, we did some research, contacting our lawyer, you know, what do we do here? Mr. Bassler had come by a couple days later and had a very good conversation with me. I will say that. It was a respectful conversation. It was constructive. I appreciated it. One of the things that clarified along with our research was that there had been an accident in which Paul Taffra's site plan had been included. That was a 2011 application that was referenced in the letter. So that had accidentally been included versus the appropriate site plan.
A little closer to the mic.
Sure. Sorry. Trying to have notes so I don't go on too long at the same time. So the right, my understanding is Friday afternoon or today, the right site plan was updated. So that is now in the record. In discussion with our lawyer, that was part of what the remediation was that we were looking at, and in discussion with Brian Bassler, that that goes into the record. It is the one that gets stamped and so on. So that, in that sense, there's sort of an audit trail that ties out what was appropriate and that there's not claim to that. So my understanding there is that that piece is now resolved.
That was sent to us. Yes, that was sent to us today.
Okay. So with that, I know there's enough abutters who have, you know, a wealth of concerns. I guess what I would do in trying to kind of look at the hierarchy of what our big concerns were is I would back up a little and say, I know you're not doing this for, you know, for the fame and fortune of it all. I know you have statutory limitations, you have the subjective pieces, you're doing the best you can. What I would see in the times that I've listened in, presented, et cetera, is that it would strike me that the commentary here is really highlighting more a breakdown at the policy level, that in some way there is discussion about what it really means to live here. That you have your limitations, other boards have theirs, but there's a breakdown if, you know, we find out that it's too late or that any difference that can be made is just on an individual case by case, which is harder if essentially the situation is stacked against you. In a situation with a democracy where you win some, you lose some, it does strike me that there is dialogue about what it means to be in this area, that if it is okay to be nothing more than sort of the Western movie where you have the facade, but when you look behind it, there's not much there. There may be enough people who would say that is appropriate and that carries the day. It may not be the case, and there's a desire beyond just the people in this room today to have something a little more robust. But it seems to me you have the ability to talk to your peer departments and to see if there's a conversation that we can have that's a little beyond an individual site plan.
I think that's why the chairman brought up the example. Well, actually, the Nantucket example, they have a restriction. Martha's Vineyard. So that can happen if there is the will.
That would be, just so you know, that would, The zoning ordinance is the one that gets into the height, the footprint, the setback, the percentage of lot you can build on. The scale, those are codified in a very specific way, depending on where they fall, what residential district. That would be the place to really make a change. That said, the only thing I'm pointing it out is that in that film, they settled on a house that's bigger than this for something that was acceptable. But I just pointed that out just because I was surprised when I read that. But you're understood. We're not, our hands aren't just tied. We don't just do what we want. We do rule on aesthetic merit as well. And it does at some point become a matter of what's too big, what isn't. It isn't a strictly objective thing, sadly. I mean, it can't be.
True, and at times it will be subjective, but it does seem that if I try and create a change, I don't have the wherewithal to understand how to most effectively navigate all the bureaucratic hoops. And which, I mean, if the various interconnected departments help create a forum, whether that forum gets the output I might personally want or not, it just seems like there's an easier path to have broader dialogue. If you do everything perfectly to the letter of your charge, and planning does, and building and so on and so forth, but they're in silos, that still doesn't work if they don't hang together. If they do hang together, but if you also have the policy level discussion, then it helps say, it's not like if you're Mr. Bassler or you're me, like everyone's trying to navigate the system as it exists. My question is more, is this the way the system should exist? And is the town able to help facilitate dialogue that if I'm trying to do it on my own, quite candidly, I'm going to flail. So maybe there's a more effective way to get at a more holistic.
If I may-
I'm sorry. Well, the fellow said that he saw me, excuse me, driving up and down the road. You can approach any of us as long as there's not a quorum present, and ask what we think of your application. Is that what you're talking about?
He's thinking of somehow changing the ordinance, the zoning ordinance. I will tell you, as I said earlier, it is my intention to get the gentleman, I spoke with him after the film, we were able to speak with the man who made it, to get him to show this film somewhere here, I don't know where. I will be having a conversation with him so that there'll be an ability to talk with him about how they mobilized and got through that process, because I don't know it either.
And I think Kathy Williams, the town planner, as I asked her, is this, what happened? It was something that went wrong? She said, no. If the house had not been conforming to building department regulations, there would have been site plan review. There would have been hearings, public hearings, and so on. But the house is conforming.
What you're saying is they did it by right.
The problem with that is the abutters aren't notified.
Right.
Exactly.
That is the problem.
But if it were non-conforming, you would have been
I am going to make it
notified.
my mission to go to these boards, planning board, public health, and see if there's some way that you people can get in on the ground floor. And we talked about this last time. You have got to have notice of what's going on, because it's too late by the time we get here.
Yeah.
Everything's already, the road's done, the planning's done. You got to know what's going on before all of this happens. So I'm going to do some investigation and see if we can't figure out a way to get this information disseminated before we get to Old Kings Highway.
And she's going to run for president, too.
It seems to be, because we haven't done it yet.
Well, no, that's intentional.
The only thing I would say to that, though, is,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
are you suggesting that it would be appropriate for every home that is constructed by right on the lot has a hearing?
no, I'm suggesting that if a house is going to come before us, to this board, and 52 people aren't happy with this one, why can't these same 52 people just get an idea of what's going on?
Well, let me be very clear here to all the committee. If you have concerns about the size, if you, as individuals, believe that this is too large and that it must be scaled down, you can rule on that and speak to that. You are not in any way bound to approve it as presented, just like we are with any application. If you feel this is too big, and it's,
I'd love
then
to
you
approve
should-
it if
then you
these
should-
52 people were happy.
That's not going to happen.
Well, you can't have a plebiscite. It's one thing to allow
I
the
mean,
process
that's-
speaking, but
Yeah,
Not just a
that's the
question of
thing.
a majority vote.
Unfortunately, that truly is beyond our, just because someone doesn't like what one wants to do with their house, that doesn't, their opinion should absolutely matter. I mean, people can speak this, please, go ahead.
I'm confused. Are you Robert Wilkins?
No, I'm Richard Ventrone,
Okay,
but I'm sitting as the chair in this application.
Richard Ventrone. Hi, my name is Julie Nathanson. I live at 52 Gingerbread Lane. I'm the first house. I'm on the corner of Gingerbread and Thatcher Shore Road. And it's driving me crazy a little bit, with all due respect, that you keep referring to the movie One Big Home. Because the size of that house is for a 3-acre minimum lot in Chilmark. I have a house on Martha's Vineyard, and in Chilmark, it's a minimum 3-acre lot to build at all. So if you're talking about a 1.8 acre lot with that size house, you're not really grasping the thrust of that movie. Do you understand that?
I do very well. Yes, thank you for schooling me on it. I do very well, and I understand as the lot increases in size, they can put more square footage on it as well. Do you understand that? So yes, I do understand it.
So
But I
what
will also point out to
size-
you, please excuse me.
Yes.
That there is no restriction in this town for square footage. All right? It doesn't exist. So I'm using that as an example, and I understand full well that it was. Yeah, I saw the movie. I spoke with the gentleman after as well. So I do understand that. Thank you.
So it doesn't apply to a 1.8 acre lot,
Nothing applies to a 1.8 acre lot in this town. Nothing.
but you keep talking about that movie.
Talking about it, and you're not grasping what I was trying to say. In respect. What I was trying to say is there are ways to limit the size. In Martha's Vineyard, they limit it to 3,500. Yes, it was on a 3-acre lot. Okay. Maybe you want to make it less here. But that doesn't exist here now.
Well, doesn't
And I also wanted to point out, and I don't believe, did anyone go to the movie? Did anyone take the time to spend their Saturday there? I also understand, no, I don't like to be spoken to in that tone, so that's why you're hearing it from me. I also understand that if they want to do something, you need to mobilize and do something and get out there and do it. So to come here and get haughty with us about what we're trying to do in a volunteer capacity is inappropriate.
I appreciate that you're working on a volunteer capacity.
So what was your point?
My point is, for One Big Home, the movie that you're
Okay.
talking about,
3,500 square feet on a 3-acre lot increases by 500 square feet as you increase in lot size. Okay, that's on Martha's Vineyard. I was using that as a point of you can limiting it. All right, yes, I was wrong not to quote that here it's a 1.8 acre lot. But I will point out that there is no restriction on building size per lot other than a percentage, I can't quote it offhand, on the late lot size. This house conforms with the buildable percentage, it's much less than I'm sure, for a lot of this size. Period, end of story. There's nothing further to discuss about it. It is beyond the purview of this committee. We don't rule on whether the percentage of the lot is built on. That's for another board. We rule on architectural matters. Do you have something to discuss with us about the architecture of this house that could help empower this committee to perhaps alter their mind and change their mind?
Yes, I do.
All right, please let us hear that, because that's what we rule on. Not on percentage of lot size, not on any of those things. Not on whether your property is too close to someone's driveway. That is not what we rule on. We're not empowered to.
Well, I wanted to make sure
I do understand, thank you.
that you understand.
I did, yes, I saw the movie and spoke with the film
It's a
producer of it.
3-acre lot,
Here we're back on 3-acre lots.
and this lot is 1.8.
Yes.
What size house would be appropriate?
It's a percentage of the lot size. I am not sitting on the planning board. We could look it up, and so could you, on the planning board site, which has the zoning ordinance. It is a percentage of lot size. They have passed that test. And if they haven't, just for the record, they wouldn't be able to build it. So they've passed that test. I'm telling you, they're certainly within it. It's a pretty big lot, considering the size of the house.
I would like to make a comment about the driveway.
It's not in our purview.
It is not in our purview. It is not in our purview. He owns that
other
piece of
hearings.
property. It is by the planning board. It has been established as a access to the house. He went before the planning ordinance, the planning process. They approved it. He was given building permits to do it. It is a fait accompli. It is done. It is not changing, people. Please understand this. He did that. He has a right to do it. Also in this letter, you asked us to provide documentation about the planning board. That is not our problem. It is not our purview. We don't do it.
And
With
I'm,
all, may I just speak for a second?
Please.
With all due respect, Acting Chair, please let the people who are up here to speak during public comment speak.
She has been
without
speaking.
interruption. That is not how I have heard it. Patricia Blackburn, 15 Flintlock Way, please speak.
Go ahead, continue.
Can we just remind you that we have other people who are here for other hearings too, so let's be considerate of them as well.
From the applicant, Mr.
We don't
Mr.
want to have
Chairman,
so much
just
redundancy that we never get out of here tonight.
meetings, I mean, I think,
Sorry, sir, what?
just for the record, I think what you've said, just to emphasize, is I think it is totally fair and judicious to
Sorry.
urge people to limit comment to the relevant
it,
things.
yeah.
I do
and
think we
not
need
be
to limit
repetitive.
comment to matters that appeal to this board, which we have power to act on. They are restricted to architectural matters. That is it. I mean, a lot of you want to speak.
Well,
well, I would like to finish.
landscape plans. We don't have a landscape plan.
You know, they do not have to provide us with a fully detailed landscape plan identifying plans.
Mitigation, perhaps.
What?
Mitigation, perhaps. Yeah. For the landscape plan, was anybody, raise your hands.
But I have another matter.
Yes.
They have built their driveway over my property line.
Well, that is something you should absolutely take up with the zoning official and the building official. You should absolutely, you are entitled, if they have built on your property, then
You on the
they're
corner of
responsible
Gingerbread
for that.
Lane?
I am, I'm on the
far
corner.
No.
53's on this corner, and 52 must be across the street.
The driveway goes right behind my house.
Okay.
I'm on 52.
Are you
Gingerbread Lane.
here?
I got you, okay,
I can't,
I got you. Yeah, you're on the left side of that from Thatcher Shore. She's right in the
That's Thatcher Shore,
corner.
This is Gingerbread.
no, I'm here.
Yeah, that's what I said, you're here.
Yes.
Okay.
I-
So truly, if that, then that is absolutely.
That goes- And there's a whole bunch,
Did you have it surveyed?
no, I didn't, but I have a certificate in landscape architecture, and I went by the markers that they have out there. And I used a laser light,
Meets and bounds?
and it goes over their own markers. And then there's like a lot of debris in my yard. Pipes, signs, metal frames.
Have you visited the police department on this?
I
You can,
No, that's what I'm
sure.
supposed to do.
Did you do a Class 1 survey on this property?
Yes.
And what did you use for monuments on it, sir?
Well, my son did it. He had Down Cape Engineering do it. I wasn't involved in that part of the project, so I
Is
can't
it
really
staked?
speak to
Like,
it.
I could see stakes from Gingerbread Lane, so.
Yeah,
Are those white stakes?
Down Cape staked the whole driveway,
Okay.
all the corners.
I mean, I would only add, as you know, if that's true, she has a right to complain to us. You can
Absolutely.
talk to me, but that's a private matter, you know? Those things might happen. I'm not saying that you're wrong.
I
We just
don't think it's a private
Well, no,
matter.
Well, it is a private matter under
You
the law.
certainly, if it is,
Because if it's representative of the workmanship that's going to be done, it shows a disregard for the neighbors on Gingerbread Lane.
so I would ask you, and really respectfully, what would you have us do as a committee that sits empowered to rule on architectural matters related to the historic district? What redress would you have us provide? I mean, I'm not being facetious. I'm not trying to be sarcastic with you. I'm sincerely asking you. I mean this most sincerely. What would you have us do for you?
I would not approve the appropriateness for this large building when they've been so sloppy with the construction of the road. When they've left debris, and it's important not just because of my property,
Yes.
but the drainage that goes into the marsh there. There's a pipe under the road, and water needs to be able to flow in and out.
That's Conservation Commission.
I am certain. I'm going to just guess, and of course,
I don't
Mr.
think it
Basil's
looks
attorney will
appropriate.
correct me if I am wrong. I am absolutely certain that if they have debris or signs or other material that has gone on your property, that if you point it out to them, they will immediately remove them and rectify it. Is it fair
I
for
would
me to say that?
prefer if they do not step on my property.
Okay, well then, if there is material on your property, they won't be able to remove it.
I would like to preserve it until it's noted.
Okay.
And then, I mean,
Police department is who you have to go to.
I would document it. So are you saying that this material is beyond the stakes that they have?
yes.
Okay, all right, well.
Okay. That's
That's
not
what your
up
police
to
are
us.
for.
Okay, but
It's not that we don't want to help you, so.
I actually would say not the police. I would suggest you go to the building official. I would think it would be more, the police are going to say it's a civil matter and they're not going to do a thing. I think you would go to Mr. Grills, the building official, explain that this has happened, and he will direct them to remove it.
could you repeat that name?
It's Mark, how do you spell Mark's last name?
Mark Grills, G-R-Y-L-Z.
R-Y-L-L-S.
LLS. Mark is the building official. He's the inspector of these things. I would bring it to his attention, go with photographs. I'm sure that if it's there, he will, but the thing is, I will say, he will, if it has to be removed, he will direct them. I mean, you don't want to remove it, do you? You want them to remove it, wouldn't you? I would
I'd
think.
like them to take more care.
And restore the landscape to what it was prior to them doing, if there is a restoration to be done. But that's what I would speak with the building official on it. And I'm sure we can even, could we put Mark in touch with this lady if she gives you the information? If you'll give Jill,
Jill.
who also goes by Jill, if you give Sally over there your information, I'm sure that Lisa we will get him in touch with you.
I also don't understand, I don't understand how this was approved without notification of abutters. My father, who is gone, fought to keep that large of a house being built. in that lot and for the driveway. So I don't understand why my father got notified and was allowed to,
I wish I could speak, honestly, I wish I could
I'm
speak
not.
to it. I really can't. If, there are, that's what I was asking Paula down there about notifying. There are certain things, and I really don't know the specifics of this, that one can do with their property that's called by right. No need for approvals. It seems they did go through a process, because there was the thing about I don't know of it, but they had the
They did go through the
sprinklers.
process.
They went through a process. And in terms of that, there's the frontage, I just want to address if I could, because another person did. It's a little quirky place here on Cape Cod. I live on a house that has no frontage on my street. None. I live off of a way that goes in. I have no frontage. This town is full of, which I think is part of the charm of it, these little kind of meandering private ways that lead to houses that don't have. When I lived in Rhode Island, to that gentleman, I don't know where he is, one must have had, in my area, 200 feet of frontage to build a house. Period, end of story. You don't have 200 feet, you can't build a house. It's not the way it works here. That's not what our zoning ordinance has prescribed. So that is how one can build a house with, effectively, a driveway. As I've said, I have zero frontage on Weano. Zero. So okay, so we've heard that.
is there no, you do have any purview over the appropriateness of the end of the driveway?
No.
No.
None.
Looks horrible.
Well, I don't think it's finished, and it's going to be constructing, so it would be the wrong time to, do whatever they want to do for that purpose at this point, because there's going to be a lot of construction equipment at some point. I think, folks, I'll have to,
for 15 minutes.
I think I'll have to limit speaking, because I think many of you want to speak, and
I have a problem with limiting speaking because I want to hear what all these people have to say.
15 minutes is a pretty long time. Sometimes it's 5.
I've been 15.
You were, I watched the clock, sorry.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
You guys have been talking a lot of the time.
I know, yes.
Trying to answer your
Janice
question.
Matheson, 28 Gingerbread Lane. A couple of things. First of all, Mr. Vice Chairman, I have found you to be incredibly condescending this evening. Okay, I just want to say that. You've interrupted people. You have monopolized the conversation. You have not allowed people to continue. I believe that Mr. Basler and his attorney have had more than adequate time, that maybe perhaps they've taken up enough time to speak this evening. So that's number one, okay? So I don't appreciate your condescending attitude. Number two, my observation, this is a done deal. The neighbors of 52, Liz is saying, the neighbors, the 52 people who have signed this petition, basically, they gave them the New York wave, as we say in my lingo, okay? They said, you guys, too bad, so sad, boo-hoo, why did we just waste all this time? Number three, if Mr. Basler is so wonderful a neighbor in Minnetoxet, why doesn't he stay there? Why doesn't 52 people who have signed against him,
Did you say condescending a moment ago? Go ahead, please continue.
I'm going to be condescending too, because it works both ways. It's a two-way street.
Go ahead, continue.
So Mr. Basler has said that his son on Minnetoxet has the nicest house on the block. Well, you want to know something? For the 52 people who have signed that petition, as far as we're concerned, he can stay there. Because I know that for myself, I wouldn't want to move into a neighborhood for someone who doesn't want me. Okay? Now, Mr. Basler, in his inimitable way, the reason why he cut so close on that driveway, because he could not touch the conservation land, because he would have been screwed. Okay? So he decided that instead of screwing the conservation people by cutting their thing, he would screw the neighbors on Gingerbread Lane by cutting into their property lines. And that is exactly what happened. And you want to know something? That pisses people off. And you want to know something? They poked the giant, okay? They poked the bear, and this is not... We have come to the conclusion that there is nothing that we can do. So essentially, from 7 o'clock when we got here until 9:15, okay, we have wasted our time because your minds have already been made up.
That's not true.
Mr. Stewart, I have to say, you
Miss Morrison, okay, Cindy, you were the voices of reason as far as I was concerned tonight.
Well, now, we've got them to change from white to gray. This is the stuff we can do. That's what we can do. They're going to,
It's still going to be, Mr. Basil lives in a 2,000-plus square foot
We're doing the
home.
best we can.
Mr. Basil lives in a 2,000 square foot home on Minnetoxic on .76 acres. That's beautifully landscaped. So what are they going to do to minimize our landscaping? What are they going to do? Are they going to put up a fence? Are they going to put arborvitae? Okay, what are they going to do so we don't have to look him in the face? Because let me tell you something. He is like to me, okay? And he's going to be he's already a poor neighbor moving into the neighborhood. And I, for one, am very upset about it because my privacy is gone. My privacy is gone. I don't care that they're building behind me. The scale of the home is way out of proportion to the neighborhood. And as the letter stated, we bought into a neighborhood. So we got screwed because the planning board, the building committee, they don't care. They're builders. What are they going to say? Yeah, build whatever you want. And if you're taking out the driveway, how big is the actual lot? 1.86? So I just am very upset about this whole thing. I'm very upset about this whole process. I am not a politically correct person, but I have to say that your condescending ways and your attitude towards the constituents that are in this room is abhorrent.
I disagree with you, but thank you for your.
You're not looking at me because, you know what? I don't know. But you have totally disregarded the people who were speaking to you tonight.
I don't think that's the case at all, but please.
That's your opinion, and so we agree to disagree.
May I suggest that the people who are concerned about the driveway bring that matter to the right department? No, it's not. Not if there's a transgression. I mean, even our lawyer, Mr. Freeman here, will note, if there's something that's been done wrong.
You've already said it. It's a done deal. So
No, not if something was done wrong.
Well, the thing is, you're already saying that the house can be
Respectfully,
built.
people, you say it's a done deal. That is not fair assessment. People have commented it's big and white and giant, and we have already asked for it to be changed to a darker color so it blends in more. So that's responding to concern, is it not?
Okay, black's going to make me look thin.
Oh, good God. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm
Pile
Teresa
on, if you
Hagenow. I
like.
do wear black, but I'm 34 Gingerbread Lane. So my only question with this in regard to you is, the way the house is set, it looks over 3 houses. So the length of that house takes up 3 houses on Gingerbread Lane. If you look at, I'm sorry, I don't have the actual map. But that's where it's like, so again, and I know you are ruling on this based on.
It's too large.
I forget, right. So that's my concern. I mean, their front of their house looks into our backyard only, right? And mine specifically, I am the quirky house or whatever you want to say that was built wrong, which I do have concerns on, which I know
Close
is
to the
not-
line.
Yeah, yeah. So when you all went by, you literally, like I am concerned that my patio will fall apart once, and I believe it will. I believe my patio will.
I drove by it today. It's, it's.
And I
right
know this is not the
there.
committee for that, and I understand that. I hope that, but I would like something as far as the landscape to be made available, so we do see what the abutment will be made prior to anything. And that would be my concern. And I didn't see anything, like it might be there now, something that was submitted today. I just am not privy to that.
Well, okay, so I keep hearing a recurring theme here. I'm hearing a recurring theme here that the house is too big and it's in my yard. Can you change can you rotate this house to face Thatcher Shore Road? So that all you'll see is the end of it?
No, not really.
No, the land? No, won't work?
It works best the way it's
Yeah,
laid
'cause
out
of
in there.
the-
It fits the topography.
And you'd only put a facade closer to the Gingerbread Lane folks. Right now, it's just one corner.
Exactly.
Well, it might be one corner, but like I said, for all of the walkers that do go up and down Gingerbread Lane, which is I mean, when I tell people where I live, they're like, oh, Gingerbread Lane, that's great. I walk there all the time, especially in cherry blossom season. It's beautiful. It's why we live there,
It's
why we
gorgeous.
bought the house. But you will see that house for 3 property lines.
Unless it's landscaped.
I mean, it is way higher than the houses
Yeah.
there. You will see it. And I mean, yes, maybe in 30 years when the trees grow, you won't see it. But for 30 years, you will see it. So very apparently. And like I said, I want to be a very good neighbor, and they've worked with me when they were putting in the property line because we knew trees were going to fall down, so that they helped us in that matter. I'm not trying to be difficult. I know my house is set funky. I just have grave concerns that I am going to lose a patio during this process with the construction. And like when we do have my daughter's dog, which is unfortunately quite often, but it barks like crazy now because there's always somebody back there and all of the animals are all the way back there. But again, not your thing, but thank you for letting me speak on
Thank
what
you
I
very
feel
much.
the scale is too large.
Sincerely, thank you. Sir.
Paul Grimble, 25 Flintlock Way, Abutter. We've heard consistently that you are restricted to architectural matters. Did I understand that correctly?
Architectural, and we also have some purview over landscape in a limited way, clear cutting, things of that nature, yes.
Good. Because my purview of the bulletin says that it is recommended with an application that a landscaping plan be presented by the applicant. Did I misread that?
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you have such a landscaping plan?
No.
No. No, we don't.
Okay.
That earlier.
Secondarily, if I understood the next part of the bulletin, it's recommended that the applicant meet with the abutters prior to this meeting in order to avoid misunderstandings. Am I understanding that?
Recommended, and I always recommended it to clients. Yes, I always think it's a good idea, yes.
That's great. Is this your client?
No.
Have you recommended it to this applicant?
It's not our job.
It's not our job to recommend it. It is recommended in the bulletin and in the ordinance, but
me
it is
ask
not
you-
our job to
Okay.
approach them and recommend it to them, no.
Okay, let me suggest to you that last meeting might have been better served by the recommendation that both those things were presented. A landscaping
was.
plan and a meeting with the abutters. And if you want to reduce the amount of opprobrium you're gaining, I would strongly advise you to do that right now. I think you'll get an agreement if there's any willingness to compromise and come to the party over there. I believe there's a recognition that it's a single-family home site. There always has been, ever since the planning department said it, and a lot of us were very pleased that Brian, local builder, got it. But the process so far and interaction with the community has been appalling. I think the landscaping plan, which I think would be a good first step, and a meeting with the abutters could go a long way to reducing the temperature, and as you said last time, not condemning Mr. Basler Senior as public enemy number 1. Could we ask you to do that and recommend that, please?
Sure.
Yes. Yes, I have to have a landscaping plan, so that should have been presented, but.
Sir.
Hi, my name's Ed Hagen. I live at 34 Gingerbread.
Yes, sir.
And I think I told you before, I'm the worst public speaker. I apologize. You'll probably hear me stutter.
You don't have to give a speech that way. Please, take your time and relax.
I am annoyed in many ways. I don't really understand Mr. Freeman's view of the bigger houses. When I look at a topographical map, I see all smaller homes, and then I see his proposal. And when I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, my house is 32 feet long. I have a door, a window on the right, a bay window, 2 windows in the kitchen, and that's it. 32 feet. He's talking about 76 feet, plus a so-called barn, which is, I'll pretend it's a barn, but a 3-car garage. So you're talking about 100 feet compared to my 32 feet, but it's all relative. It's all like fitting into the neighborhood. I don't, all my neighbors have the same similar size houses, and there's this 100-foot house. I don't see the connection. And then he's stating the fact, all these houses on Thatcher Road. I paid $625,000 for my house. I know the houses on Thatcher Road are not $625,000. It's all appropriate to the neighborhood. Sadly to say, I drive a school bus. I go in neighborhoods And the buses, the houses are all small and they're relatively blend in together because they were all built at the same time. So these houses that are huge are built over the last few years, but there are $1 million properties on the water. It's hard to compare. For Mr. Freeman to say that really annoys that, you know what, out of me. It just is no, it's like my size body compared to someone small here. We're not the same size people. So for him to say that to me is really, and when I look at the picture of his map and I see all those windows across the front, I don't see how that can be even historical, excuse me, historical. I apologize. I don't see the historical.
It's used a lot to describe historical, too. But go ahead, yeah.
I appreciate everything you guys do. You're all volunteers. I really do appreciate it. I know it's very hot, you know, us against them. And like a couple of us said, there's 52 of us that don't really like what's going on. And I think it's already a done deal. I think it's over. Sad to say. But I just don't think 52 people are going to be happy when Mr. Basler builds his house. And I think you said, Mr. Vice Chairman, that, you know, we're going to be, after this is all done, we're all going to be neighbors and we have to go on. I don't know how this is going to happen with a house like this, you know what I mean?
And I'm going to ask, if I could, when people come up, you two, I'll start with you, and anyone who wants to speak again. Just to get an idea, how much smaller would make it palatable? I'm just curious. What is that for you all? What is the site issues aside? How much smaller, I'd ask you, oriented the same way, would make this house something you'd embrace and be happy about? Is it 10%? Is it, let's say it's 3,500 square feet. Is it 3,000? Is it 2,500? Again, I'm not saying that we're going to dictate that, but I'm just curious, what would that number be for you, where you would say, now that's a house? Because, you know, I'm just curious what it would. Does anyone have that in their head? Is in their mind? Please, let's start with you because you're there.
No, my house is 1,500 square feet. I mean, it's a small retiree house.
And you were going to say?
Well, if it was equal to what's on Minnetoxet, a little over 2,000 is fine. Since that's not far from the 1,900, that might be in the immediate area.
We're speaking out, not on mic.
We can't do that.
Yeah, I don't think we can do that.
Well, I appreciate your help.
Excuse
I
me,
really
you
do.
asked the question, and
I'm just, again, I'm curious what it is. I'm curious what the magic number is.
There's no magic number, obviously.
And I'm not, you know, I'm obviously using that facetiously, but yes.
So at the maximum, I mean, maybe, he has a little over 2,000 square feet on .76 acres right now on Minnetoxet, okay, with landscaping.
Yes.
And the nicest in the area. And so maybe a little bit more than that, okay, but to put a one of that magnitude in there is just ridiculous. It's just 3 stories. It is 3 stories in the back, okay? Personally, I'm an empty nester. Mr. Basler is a bit younger than me, but at what point do you need to have a monument to yourself just because you can? Okay, so to have him adjust it to what the neighborhood is fine, but to put in a monument to yourself because you can is a whole different thing.
All right, I just have one statement to say about this, and you were talking about the size of this house. Where were these same 52 people when the other house went in on 33 Thatcher, which is twice the size of the one that's going in here? Where was everybody supporting the neighborhood then?
Excuse me.
Oh, it's the same as this. It was
Sorry?
through here.
We were not abutters. I'm Debbie Gribble, 25 Flintlock. We were not abutters. Had I been in a butter, had I known about it, maybe it's my fault, I didn't find out, I would have objected vehemently to that house. It's a monstrosity. And I remember, may I say something else, please? I remember back in the day when this first came up and Brian was going to take that property. We talked about it. He said, I'm not going to do, a Dennis McMansion, no interest in that at all. He wanted to do a nice little Cape, maybe 2020, and he told us this at my dining room table. 2,500 square feet.
He referenced a property in the area in which he lives, which he, I believe, had built. My wife and I, Julie, went to see it. It was very attractive, and we were fully in support of his application. We believed that it would be an addition, a modern addition, but it would be a good one, built by a local builder. What is going on here is very different. Now, it's reported that Mr. Basler Jr. met Mr. Wilkins the day after the last meeting. To your point, and I'm really glad you opened this up, Richard, what would work, which is what I was trying to ask in the earlier question, perhaps if you'd had a meeting with the abutters prior, some of this difficulty could have been avoided. It's reported that Mr. Basler Jr. said 1/3 less and we'll get it done. I imagine 1/3 less would fly here, but you've got to set that in motion.
We haven't heard anything. It is saying that they're going to reduce the size at all.
You haven't even got a
And that would be,
landscaping plan.
yeah, and all of that would help enormously.
Yeah.
Because 52 people are not happy.
Thank you.
Oh, we don't have the power to do that. Sorry.
Good evening. Christine Marzigliano, Yarmouth Conservation Trust. You've been very patient tonight. The only thing I would ask the developer is that when during construction, they put the berms down to protect anything that might mitigate over into the conservation land, and I appreciate it. Most of the arguments here tonight are not with this committee. They're with the bylaws. And if everybody reviews the bylaws and follows the bylaws, their arguments are not with this committee, they're with the bylaws of the town. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
Hi, good evening. Stephen Klug, 46 Gingerbread Lane, right one house up the corner from Thatcher Shore. The word scope has been mentioned. And to me, perhaps this doesn't entertain the exact definition of scope, but it has to do with scope. And what I mean by scope on Cape Cod is you look at a cape, and from the front of that cape, you're not really sure how big that cape is. It may have a dormer in the back, it may have an extension in the back, you don't see that. But in this case, what you do see, scope has to do with the visual, has to do with what the neighbor sees. And in this case, it's not like driving by and looking at the cape and not knowing how much is there. In this case, you see what is there.
Thank you. Are there others that wish to speak? Well, I'll remind if that's the case, I'm going to, again, go back to our ordinance, and I will quote, "The committee shall consider settings, relative size of buildings and structures, but shall not consider detail arrangements," blah, 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 blah. So it's right there. So I'll ask the committee, do you again,
Can we
Feel it's
discuss
too large.
the landscaping?
sure, we could discuss the landscaping.
I think that we've heard cries for that, and I
Yes,
would
I-
certainly support that. I think you've had.
I know, but are you going to take what he said about the landscape?
How about we talk about it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because it says it's suggested. So do you have, do you intend to go to a landscape architect as such and have a plotting plan for it? Or is it intended to be more of a, you'll just use your own? Few people go to landscape architects, sadly. But
Normally do, we'll just put in some trees.
I think we should ask for a plan.
I mean, I have a basic plan here.
do you intend to line the drive on the Gingerbread Lane side with plantings?
We do plan to do that. Brian doesn't want to look into
columnar
the
type
backyards
of
of
thing.
all these people.
I don't know, is there enough room
I
to do
don't
that?
think
Brian
there's
doesn't
enough
want to
room.
look into the backyards of all these people. You know.
There's no road
May I
run
make a
into the
statement,
front.
because they did take down, they did cut the roots of a big tree of mine, okay? And it was a huge tree. It would be cost prohibitive for me to take it down. And what happened was, when they cut the roots, I've lived there 30-somewhat years, and as I mentioned in the last meeting, one of the trunks fell. So I would like it to go on record that I'm going to get an arborist to take a look at it, but I will not be responsible for the cost of taking that tree down, because I did not cause those roots.
May I ask which house?
28 Gingerbread Lane.
Would you show me on this drawing? I'm sorry.
That's right near the road, north of it.
This is
South of it.
gingerbread.
South of it.
Let's see, where are we here?
The corner.
This looks like.
Next to the one with the terrace right on the driveway.
Correct.
This
So
is
there's
huge.
a huge tree right there, right.
Huge tree here.
Yeah, there's a huge tree right on my property line.
Okay.
So I don't want to be responsible for that.
Well, I mean, I think it could probably.
He told me that the
15
town,
degrees, but to what end?
what Mr. Basler told me was the town told him he had to do it.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Mr. Basler, quote unquote, said, I said, why did you cut the roots of my tree? He said, the town told me I had to. And I believe that the reason why he had to was to avoid going into the conservation.
To get the driveway in.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
As you pointed out, it's recommended, not necessary, but there has been discussion, so this is perhaps more pictorial, but I will submit a plan that shows 13 various kinds of cypress, including Leland cypress, of fairly good initial height. You could certainly put a condition that these be installed, and you could put caliber requirements. As an architect, you're familiar with those, so, again, I'll be happy to submit this right now.
Thank you. I know obviously none of you have this. We'll make sure that it is published.
72-foot house, 13. 300-foot driveway, right?
I can see it from here.
Well, again, does the committee want to address Salem's size and scale again?
I think I personally would like to get a true landscaping plan and the contingency of the house color that we discussed, that he is agreeable to. Those would be my desires.
I'd like to see the house foundation staked out on the property and have a site visit.
I would like to see that too. And the other thing I know never occurred to me about the 31-foot finished height, and if that was visible from Gingerbread, because when I drove down Gingerbread, I looked between the houses and I couldn't see the foundation, but that doesn't talk to the peak. So is there any way to put some sort of a stake to mark what the height will be?
No,
Is there
I
some way to
used
do
to fly
that?
balloons for turbines, but I think we're going a little over the.
Yeah, I don't think you can mark the top.
No.
But,
That would be hard.
from
Would you be
gingerbread,
willing-
it's not going to look like much. It's just
We
too
can't
far
restrict
away.
it anyways.
Considering the size and scale has been brought up, and I've mentioned it, and other people have mentioned it being big, would you be willing perhaps to meet with your neighbors in the hopes of trying to come to some agreement, or perhaps seeing if it's even possible, or even explaining it to them why it might not be, in reducing the massing of this building?
I will say this. We understand what's been said. We understand your thoughts and your proper deliberation and expression. So I thought we were certainly ready to have a vote on appropriateness, as I said at the outset. But I respect the process. So, as much as we'd prefer to get it done, but I would say if you're willing to continue it, probably to your next meeting, we can submit a landscape plan and, talk to some representatives of the neighbors. And folks maybe don't know me, but I'm always one to engage in that process. I don't mind saying that. So folks want to contact me and we'd set up a meeting, could be at my office or somewhere else, somebody's home, we would do that. So
Sounds very
I
reasonable.
think those would be the only things that you'd be looking for. If not, then, please tell us what else we should submit before another hearing.
Is that of appeal to you all, to you folks? I don't know if you want to all go. I mean, I don't know if everyone wants to be there, but if you decide, it's not for us to decide.
I tell the applicants, I think if they don't do some kind of mitigation, you're going to be talking to their lawyers,
That's what it boils down to.
I'm afraid.
So I do have one question that's unrelated to our purview, but there's been so much discussion about the driveway and about avoiding conservation and encroaching on the property lines. I'm just curious. You have a very narrow pork chop there that was carved out. How wide is your property down that driveway section, and how wide is the driveway itself?
The
12 feet?
land is 20 feet wide.
What did you say, sir? I'm sorry?
20 feet wide.
The planning board required the driveway to be 10 feet wide right down the middle. And
That put you 5 feet in from either property line.
It is 20 feet, and that's what it shows on the plan.
Okay, thank
And
you.
again, if you disagree and you need to take the steps to bring the right party in, to show that right party that it wasn't done appropriately. But we can't do that.
Again,
The planning department.
and if you want to contact me, I'm right on Willow Street in Yarmouthport. Peter Freeman, you can find me, 86 Willow Street, so thank you. What is your next hearing date? I mean, I'm fine with just, okay, continue it.
So I would say if you are going to meet with the applicant, I would, I don't think we're going to do it in this forum, obviously, because we meet. So does that,
I think we just put it out there and let it
and you
evolve.
folks can make that contact perhaps, or you could leave your information with Lisa, and then, so that they could contact you should they choose to.
So we're going to table this?
I think we are going to. What about staking it?
Yes,
Could we ask you to stake out
the foundation.
the
please.
foundation?
well, if I can get down, keep it, do it.
Yeah, I think the only question is, Down Cape and many engineers are so busy, but I'd still like to continue it to the next hearing, and we'll do our best.
Why
to
don't we
get it.
continue it to the next hearing, and then should you need more time, should you want, we'll just let us know.
Tape measure, a 50-foot,
and,
100-foot tape measure.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be exact.
It doesn't.
If it's
have
not
to be
surveyed, then we can do that. If it's not
absolutely
precise.
Pick up
yeah,
a stake,
Sure.
pick up a stake someplace.
Okay.
Ideally, it would be great if you could, get that kind of stretchy tape, and then you can really get an idea of what it is.
And the height, apparently, is that what this means, or is it?
So this is my next
Did I not
question.
comb my hair today? Is that what?
Does this warrant, do we want to entertain the idea of having a special meeting
No.
on site, just to review and walk the site as a group together?
So I do.
That's a good idea, because we really otherwise can't all go together, or we would be having a meeting.
Well, you can,
But,
It would include everyone.
but we can't,
sounds
we
like
can't
a-
discuss
you can
it
schedule,
out of,
Lisa's saying,
I mean, John's got it. There's only certain,
We
you really
can't
can't go
discuss
and
it more than
deliberate
three of
on.
us.
No. It would be, the purpose of the meeting would be exclusively to walk the perimeter as a group, and I would think the abutters could do so. It's a public meeting in that way.
that has
Not a
to be,
meeting.
Lisa has
a
to.
meeting,
you
it's
have
a
to
site, it's a site
advertise.
visit with no
visit.
testimony.
But we are there as a group. We're not going to deliberate it or discuss it.
There you
But
go.
we as a body can all be there together
To learn.
I think,
to walk it.
I think what we should do, just to carry it a little bit farther, Lisa needs to advertise the fact that we're gonna do this.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
It has to be advertised.
And then, actually, if you could call it a meeting,
It is a meeting. yeah.
okay, then it has
Let's
to be
call it a site
advertised.
visit.
and
We don't want to
advertised.
call it a meeting, it's a site visit.
Otherwise, we can't discuss anything.
Listen to Mr.
Correct.
It's a site visit,
Attorney
no
Freeman is-
testimony.
It's a
That's
site
what it
visit
should
with
be
no
advertised
testimony,
as.
yeah.
Right.
But
Site
it is,
visit.
but it is technically a public meeting.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and being that poor Lisa is going to be scrolling away there, so there's no testimony on a pad, so, because she doesn't, and without a desk in front of her. So this would be for the purpose exclusively of having the applicant explain the perimeter, this is this is that, us asking questions related to that.
Landscape ideas, I want.
Landscape ideas, this here, this there.
We really shouldn't discuss
Really, I
anything.
mean,
We can
we're
show
not gonna
you,
accept
we can
free
show you the
trees.
outline, but we can't discuss landscape ideas, et cetera, because it's outside the public
You
hearing.
could show us where
No,
we're
we
thinking, or
can't.
no?
No, we can show you where the building outline and how it fits into the area in
All right,
terms of the plan.
okay, so
but we can't-
exclusively to show the building footprint on site, no testimony. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
All right, so we will advertise, it'll have to be during the day, obviously. If you would notify Lisa, please, of when you think that might be ready. We'll table this application until then, and then we will then schedule and advertise a public meeting, no testimony, for the applicant to explain the footprint of it to us, with us nodding and looking and whatever, and that's effectively it. And the public is invited to walk the ground as well and see that. Is that sound appealing to everyone?
Yes?
Yes.
One point of clarification, please. Patricia Blackman, 15 Flintlock. There was discussion earlier about visibility of the proposed structure from Gingerbread. Would the, lack of a better word, the taping, the staking, the plot lines, could that please include whatever the ridge line is going to be?
I think that's really hard.
There we could,
I
that
think
way
it
you
can
could
be done.
determine whether or not, what the visibility from Gingerbread or from other, or
I
Flintlock.
mean, just a point in
I have a
space?
32-foot ladder.
Could I ask how,
We
how you,
heard
I
it's
mean,
not that
how you,
high.
All you need, lean it up against a tree. It's in
how
my
you going to
backyard.
handle, you know, a date? It should be continued to a certain date, and then we can come up with a site visit.
What would you like, you
Excuse me,
tell
could I
us
have my
what that would
question
be?
answered by the?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
I think he did. About the height?
Yeah, could.
Yeah, that's what John was addressing.
Tree,
I did.
a ladder.
I'm sorry, it doesn't.
32-foot ladder, okay? It's not going to be exactly where the ridge line is. It's going to be leaning up
That
against
I
a tree.
get up on a
Could-
32-foot ladder?
No, but you'd be able to see
Be
it.
able to see the height,
Could- Could I ask
It's
what the
difficult
next
to
two
visualize,
regular
I
meeting dates
understand.
are, and we'll have to
In
fit us?
2
Are you
weeks.
suggesting I put up
Every
a
2 weeks?
32-foot
Well, I
ladder?
have one.
No, it's the
I'll
13th.
You're gonna
donate it to the
bring
cause. All right.
November 13th.
So it's actually 3 weeks, correct?
2 weeks this time.
November
the
13th
second
is the
and
next
fourth.
meeting.
Intending to have this site visit prior to that?
Yes.
Well,
Ideally.
it has to be advertised twice, 14 days out and 7 days out, so you have to push it back accordingly.
Okay, well then, I think you should continue it, because generally, it's better to continue to a date certain. If we need to continue the actual hearing, we will, and then I can work with Lisa on the site date? Okay, fine.
So,
Yes.
are we just going to table it at this point with no particular date?
Continue the hearing until November 13th, with the understanding that I'll work to find a site visit date that will have to be advertised properly.
And perhaps in this time you can all
Sure.
connect.
Paul Galvin, 25 Gingerbread Lane. I promise one quick.
Yes, sir, please.
I'll leave you alone. You've done a great job over the last 2 meetings covering points that necessarily don't follow under your scope. What happened to the road being one of them. So this meeting on site with whomever the abutters, I think is fantastic. Could it possibly be a joint meeting with the planning board so the driveway problems could be expressed at the same time?
I could tell you, just even if it was possible, the logistics of it would be near, I mean, it will take us a year to even
Right, so,
get them
but,
together.
so these, the 52 signees of the, they could go to the planning board and ask for such a
That's
site
just-
meeting.
That's right.
I would strongly suggest that we do that. All right,
Yes.
no, I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. Is everyone else, anyone else? And again, I would encourage you all, it's 3 weeks at least until we'd be meeting, and probably, so Lisa, if they stake this out tomorrow morning, I'm just using hypothetically, if this was done now, the first time we could actually go to that meeting would be what date?
2 weeks.
It would be 2
14
weeks.
It's 14 calendar days.
Okay,
whatever
so
that- I don't
it
have a
would be,
calendar in
so
front of me,
if it was,
whatever that is.
so it's going to be, a month, right? So again, I'd encourage you all to try to speak to each other if you could. If I was offensive to any of you, I do sincerely apologize. I didn't mean to be at all. I try very hard to be.
I have one more question before we
Objective.
table this.
Yes.
Are we asking for a landscape plan or not?
for the next meeting.
Yes,
I understand it that you are, so we'll do it.
we are.
Very good.
So, all right, great. Okay.
Now may I move to table the item?
Oh, really? Do you want to do that? Please.
I move that we table item 23-A123
Until November 13th.
until November 13th, this next meeting, is what we would
Second.
generally do.
And I appreciate the effort by everybody.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all very much. If it was only 10 degrees warmer in here.
Will be soon.
We usually see an empty gallery here. I would encourage everyone to please come to our meetings. Follow us online.
Can I make a recommendation?
Please.
If it affects them directly, they couldn't care.
I suspect the next item is going to be rather complex with the, can we bring up the last two items and get those poor people out of here?
I think it's, all right, I think it's a good idea to ask that. We have to ask it.
Okay.
You can,
He's going to see everybody coming out.
Let me do that first.
in November if you want.
I have a question to ask,
It's
which,
a board decision.
it's a board decision?
It's our decision.
I mean, because,
Oh, okay, to let them know.
Sure,
Yeah.
he actually got an ulcer from this once.
Was it
Right, to let Bill Rubich know.
Bob Wilkins, or we can come back.
He knows.
You like this at every
But
meeting.
we were contemplating,
Oh, I'm serious.
I'm speaking out of turn, to try to let the last two quick
You're right.
hearings go before you.
I did.
They should be.
Agreed, but are they?
I believe they will be.
All right, are you certain, because you are next, but if we were to, are you sure? Well, that's very kind of you.
I know.
So we have to make them aware. You have to have the patience to make them.
Thank you.
We told them over and over again, and they still came back with the same thing. See,
Sir, we're going to move you folks
sounds
ahead of
good.
this
thinks
to
we're
House.
all powerful.
So the applicant has agreed to this.
Oh, geez.
All
You
right.
take a nap out there or what?
Oh, yeah, and here, I'll just give you mine, it's probably
Were you
easier.
watching it?
Yeah, just give me a call, my email's
And
on
the
there,
applicant on Summer Street has been
figure out
very
whatever we
kind to
need to do.
agree.
Certainly.
We are moving these two applicants ahead of Summer Street, hopefully to dispense with them quickly.
Okay.
And Summer Street will be last.
Okay.
I don't think I've
My
screwed
God,
you
we
up
have
at
to do
all
Summer
here.
Street.
Oh, yeah.
How could you leave us in here alone?
How'd you forget, Paul?
I think I want to commit suicide.
Could you hear anything? Did you hear anything?
Where does this go? This is Thatcher Shore Road, undone, it's been tabled. Where does it go?
Back in the packet.
Where does it go? Here? Okay. So, just so you know, Summer Street is going to the bottom, and this is the next one on the agenda.
What's next?
Must be the two solar panel things.
It is. Oh, wait, let me get my water. Does anyone have any Valium?
Yes.
I want to go right to the high test. Valium ain't gonna do it.
Do you want more water?
What?
Want more
I
water?
can get it now. Thank you.
Summer Street's coming last.
No, just tell me.
You have to go into the break room down here,
First door or past where you are?
all the way, no, it's down right over this
You wish me to wait for you?
Oh, my God.
All right,
Okay.
so with the permission of the applicant for 33 Summer Street, we are going to shift the agenda in hopes of dispatching with the two other tabled applications quickly, in the interest of time. So the next application, let me get my, what did Rick do with my? The next application, tabled application, is 23-A114 to install 27 solar panels on the front and back roofs at 11 Ironwood Court. John Markevka is the owner, and Momentum Solar is the agent. And who do we have this
Let me
evening?
untable it first.
Thank you.
Move to untable 23-A114.
Second.
All in favor of untabling that application?
Aye.
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 Okay, now we'll hear the application. Who do we have tonight?
I'm Craig Orn. I'm the construction manager for Momentum Solar.
Okay,
I'm Virginia Marhevka, the owner.
okay. All right, so tell us about the application.
Well, it's pretty sweet and simple, just like you said. We're putting 27, we're proposing to put 27 modules on the house. I believe you have the drawings.
Okay.
The house is, there's only 2 houses that can view my client's house. It's a dead-end street. It's actually a circular-ended street. And the front of her house is barely visible from anywhere. I have an overhead.
I think we have it.
Okay, I wasn't sure. It's been a while, and I apologize for missing the last meeting. Family emergency.
You're forgiven. Are you done?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? All right. So,
Actually, I have one question. Sorry. So this picture.
Yep.
Is that the existing roof? Is there a different roof than what's on here?
Yeah, that's the old roof.
So there's a new roof?
Yeah.
And the new roof is like a light gray?
It's metal.
Faux slate? Is it a faux slate is what it is? Okay. Thank you.
okay. So, we have, within the last couple of years, as a commission, established an exemption for rooftop solar panel arrays, and the following 10 specifics need to be adhered to in order to qualify for the exemption. 1, plot plan showing location of house on property. 2, drawing showing accurately the layout and location for the solar panel array and any related wires, systems, or features to be placed on the exterior of the dwelling. 3, roof length equal to or less than 50 feet. 4, roof height equal to or less than 35 feet. 5, roof pitch equal to or less than 7/12 pitch. 6, roof shingles shall be of a dark color to blend with the solar panel array. 7, solar panel array shall have a contiguous rectangular pattern and shall not be broken up with visual gaps or disjointed sections. 8, solar panel thickness shall not exceed 2 inches. 9, solar panel height above roof shall be less than 6 inches. 10, no change to the appearance of the building except for the addition of the panels. In my estimation, the only one of those 10 that is at issue is the one just raised by Ms. Ecker, the color of the roof shingles. So I would like to know, in the opinion of my fellow committee members, is the current color of the roof, in your considered estimation, sufficiently consistent with the color of the solar panel arrays?
What's this?
I have no problem with this installation. I don't, the fact that the roof is not black, it's gray, it's not a very visible, it's a cul-de-sac, it's not visible from Route 6A. She needs all of the panels in order to get the deal, in order to lower her electrical.
So
This is the least
to
thing.
repeat my question, in the estimation of my fellow committee members, is the color of the roof consistent with the color of the solar panel array?
No.
Or sufficiently consistent?
No.
No, my other question has to do with the pitch. Did you read it has to be a 7 pitch or less for the exemption? Well, you just read the 10 points. Was one of them the pitch? What was the pitch required?
The pitch is equal to or less than 7/12.
Okay, so what is this pitch?
It's steep.
It's more than
More
7.
visible because it's steep.
So there's 2 items that it's not
Okay, so
meeting.
there are, okay, so that, my point being, so this does not qualify then for the array, for the exemption, so that's why we're hearing the application, and so are there any other comments or questions from the committee regarding it?
Just what I just stated, that it's on a cul-de-sac, it's not visible, it's a well-constructed, it's a well-planned-out solar installation.
Any other comments or questions from the committee?
I agree.
I would like to point out that there are no other solar panels in the neighborhood, consisting of two roads that, yes, they are cul-de-sacs, but they're very handsome, high-end houses, and so this would be a departure from the existing aesthetics of that particular neighborhood.
Well, not
And
yet.
that's my comment. So are there any comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve, and unfortunately you have my agenda, 23-A114.
I second.
Is there a second?
May I have my book, please, Bob?
What are you looking for?
Right, sorry, so my little bound book.
Oh, this?
Thank you.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay.
Okay.
Approved.
You have to come sign something.
Do I sign or you
Me
sign?
or the owner?
Probably the owner.
So, if you'll sign here, please. Okay, congratulations.
set.
You're all set.
Yeah, I'll send you all the stuff tomorrow, all the approved stuff. And then I'll sign.
We got the Hummer back.
Period, but, you know, it's 10 calendar days, yeah, but the 10 days will start, I'll clock it in tomorrow, so the 10 days will start after that.
There you go. Don't sign it, because you did not.
I think you have my agenda, by the way.
Oh.
You can, yeah.
Well, I thought we...
I don't think I do, but I don't care. There's, I checked it, that was mine, but that's all right, keep it. I'm all set. Thank you, sir.
The next item on the agenda is 23-A085, is to install solar panels on the front and rear roofs at 53 Gingerbread Lane.
I move to untable.
Just
Oh,
let
beg
me
your pardon.
finish, please. Judson Phelps is the owner, and Power Energy Solution is the agent, and we need to untable the application. Now it's your turn.
Thank you. Move to untable 23-A085.
Seconded.
All in favor of untabling the application signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, tell us about it.
Well, we were here a couple of weeks ago, and you made some suggestions, and we took them. So what you're seeing is your suggestions. We put the bulk of the solar panels on the
Shed dormer.
shed dormer, but you can't see them from the street because that dormer's too high. The back side is the way it was before, so
Good job.
get going in a couple of weeks, maybe.
I have no comments.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Are there any questions or comments from abutters or other interested members of the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve this application.
I second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And if I can find it now.
She's our Hummer, isn't she? Is she humming? Aye, she's a Hummer.
After she had her stroke, she's been humming.
Okay, well, it was very
I know
calming.
she's in the house.
It was very calming. I was like,
I find it that way.
oh, good.
At least it's got some tune.
Yeah.
Well, Judd, in all the confusion with the change of...
Thank you.
Persona.
Thank you very much, sir. It's much appreciated.
I believe I have the thing for you to...
You need a new one, Bob?
Yeah.
You need a new one?
Why not?
Okay. It's here somewhere. Apologize for the disarray.
It's been quite the night.
Lisa, could you try to put that down again?
Okay, thank you.
It's only 170 in here, or only 150?
Probably 70.
Okay, Judd, there you go.
You get your blood pressure. I'm hot. Oh, you lost your temper once.
You know what?
Oh, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Deservedly so.
Yes. She was being haughty, as I described her, haughty.
No, just sign it. This one, we don't need now. Okay, thank you. Good luck with it.
Sure. What'd you do, read Moby Dick?
I wish I had done
Ayn Rand.
something as interesting or productive, but no.
You only got through War and Peace twice. I just finished reading Moby Dick, and I have to tell you, it's one tough book.
Oh, God.
Okay.
One tough
On
whale.
your cruise?
I read it on the cruise. I read, yeah, and it's a slog.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, you're like, really? There's a lot of unnecessary prose in there.
1,000 pages?
Well,
There's a
it
prose
didn't do
rich.
well when it was first published at all.
What's the first line, first sentence?
Call me Ishmael.
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
And then he does a lot of talking.
Call me Ishmael.
Like, I just seriously bought a book
Instead
because
of
I
call
read
me
it. I've
Ishmael.
always wanted to
Call
read
me
it. I
Ishmael.
just bought a book called Why Read Moby Dick by Nathaniel Philbrick, which I'm reading because I'm a glutton for punishment. It's thin. He explains why it's important, which I'm still not getting.
Whales are important.
There's a film on the 5th about the guy that was swallowed by the whale.
Oh, you kidding?
Yeah,
Is it really?
it's at Cape Cinema.
Oh,
Only one night, November 5th.
do you know that whales have names?
Yeah.
They name each other.
You name each other?
Amazing things.
Yeah. Elephants, too.
What?
They have names.
Who visit the bones of their dead elephants. It's very, yeah, it's amazing. Sad. I started to watch that documentary, An Apology to Elephants. I couldn't.
I can't.
I turned it off.
Yeah, I can't deal with it either.
I couldn't watch it.
Apology to Old Kings Highway
Apology.
Committee.
All right, kids.
And
The next item on the agenda, last but not least, is 23-A100. It is to build an addition in the rear of the house with new foundation, new deck, extended dormer, reframe porch, and add bay window to the front of 33 Somers Street. And
May we move?
William Rubich is the owner, and W.D. Price, Inc. is the agent, and
Burbidge also is the owner.
you don't look like William to me, so tell us who you are, and then...
Move to untable it.
Elizabeth
Okay.
Rubidge.
Move to untable item 23-A100.
Second.
All in favor of untabling this application? Thank you, Rick.
Aye.
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 And aye. Okay, tell us.
I'm Elizabeth Rubidge, the co-owner of 33 Summer Street.
Okay.
And
So,
before we start, thank you. I know we did make quick work of it, but you were next, and thank you for allowing us to finish those two folks first.
But it was very enlightening, the discussion beforehand.
Oh, that little thing?
That was, yeah, I know.
That was good.
It really,
It was important.
yeah.
It's painful.
okay.
Well, the procedure was interesting, and, you know,
Interesting as a word.
So, tell us.
Good evening. So the proposal, I'm not sure this, Lisa, I think that description did not get updated because the dormer extension has been eliminated.
oh, that could be.
So we had submitted an updated, but at any rate, there's no dormer extension. We would like to rebuild the back of the building according to plan. We also propose to add a screen porch, which is a very small sort of entry porch to the back mudroom area, not a deck specifically. The front deck is to be, the front porch is to be extended along the front of the house with the addition, also with the addition of a bay window adjacent, and siding is to be replaced. Roofing is to be replaced. Siding is like for like, roofing is like for like. Windows are to be replaced. We intend to keep the 5 windows on the first floor that are historic as replacement windows so that the frame of the window can be maintained, the original frame would not be disturbed.
So which ones are those?
Those are the first 5. There's one on the south elevation, one on the north elevation, and 3 on the east elevation.
May I suggest that everyone separate their plans, because the way it's drawn, you can effectively have the X2 and A3. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You can have the existing and the proposed effectively right in front of you at the same time.
Good point.
I'm sorry, please continue.
And so the windows, with the window schedule and proposed window specifications have been supplied to the committee. Their Pellas, the door, front door has also been supplied. It's a Provia door. I believe there was a siding sample, if I'm not
Visit?
mistaken.
No,
Sorry?
siding.
Oh, siding.
Yeah,
It's-
the siding is going to be like for like, so on the facades that currently, where there currently exists clapboard, we intend to keep clapboard. On the elevations that currently exhibit white cedar, we intend to keep white cedar. The trim detail is going to stay the same to match existing, so there'll be no changes to the trim detail. The bay window that's on the south elevation, excuse me, thank you, is to be the center of that window. We like to add a French door to that bay window in the center, which will have the same window, or excuse me, the same trim detail at the bottom of the door as the side panels of the bay window, so that it matches and fits. There's a skylight that we'd like to add above the kitchen. And the porch, Richard had asked a question on the last presentation for the demo about the porch and whether or not it's going to be demolished. The intent is to save the posts at minimum. The flooring is rotted, so the floor would have to be ripped out. We don't know the condition of the rafters and roof system yet, so that's a TBD. We'll certainly rebuild it like for like if it needs to be removed, but that's an unknown right now.
Is the porch on this, I guess, the north elevation? The porch on the north elevation, is that going to be wider than the existing? Same size?
Same size.
So,
Well, yeah, so the width doesn't change, the depth changes. Is that, so the width as in, it doesn't encroach on the,
Coming forward to the front of the house?
Yes.
But on the north side, the side is staying the same width?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Introduce myself.
Sure.
Maybe Bill Rubich, the co-owner. A simple way to describe this is from the point when we're demolishing the existing L, that part is all going to be new toward the back, which is going toward the west. But on either side, there aren't any changes to the north side of the existing portion. The only change on the south side of the existing portion is to convert the central window of the bay to be French doors, which will resemble the existing window. And so the only other new change, so we're preserving all that stuff. The new change is the front, where we're adding the bay window and extending the porch using the same decorative features as are currently there to be a half porch in front of the house.
Yep, yep, that's great. No,
My
that's
my
fantastic.
point was lots is staying the same.
Yeah, right. We do have,
The porch wraps around.
yeah, I'm going to bring up,
Wrap around, but it doesn't now. And on the left, 2 windows are going to disappear and be replaced by a
Bay window.
bay window with 3 windows in it. Okay.
yeah. We do have,
As you had before, you have a door in the center that you just spoke to on the bay on the side. That'll be an entrance.
On the side.
Stuff we can see from the street. That's what I'm talking
yep,
about,
that's correct,
basically.
that's
okay?
right, yeah. We do have updated three-dimensional drawings that I'd be happy to present to the, I just got these yesterday, so.
Okay.
If I have a copy for folks that.
Can I ask you a question? I'm looking at the proposed rear elevation, and you've got those 2/2 windows, and you've got kind of a,
Thank you.
This?
no, right here, proposed,
Which is-
proposed rear.
Great, thank you. These would be a lot easier to understand.
Where did the proposed rear go for you?
Right, this is proposed south, proposed north. Okay.
I have this
While she's,
talking about right here.
Have you essentially finished your
So, I-
presentation?
This is the rear.
Excuse me.
You can't see the
Yes,
Have
thank
you essentially finished your presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'll invite comments and questions from the committee.
All right, so I'm looking at the proposed rear
Okay.
elevation. And you've got 2 windows over 2 windows, and you seem to have some kind of border that's between the windows and that new raised patio. You seem to have some kind of trim there. It's the rear elevation proposal. I'm looking at the 4 windows
Right.
with a trim between them and the raised patio. Is there not a trim there?
When you say rear elevation, can you, yeah, but.
Right here.
Proposed rear elevation.
I understand, but the plan does not say rear, it says south, northeast, west.
I'm looking at proposed rear
Proposed
elevation.
2 over
2 of A3.
Thank you.
2 of A3, perfect.
drawing 2 on sheet A, it's actually sheet A4, but it's actually sheet A4.
Okay.
Drawing 2,
So I'm going to interject here for a minute. This is a multifaceted application, and the time is late, and I'm hopeful that we can get through it tonight. But in order to streamline the process, so we're now talking about the proposed addition in the rear, right?
Yes,
So
we are.
let's all focus our attention to the proposed addition in the rear now, and then move on, if we, time permitting,
Existing,
with the other aspects of the
rear,
proposed.
front.
So,
So to speak to that question, can I speak to that question?
Yes.
That's all I had, so.
Did you find it? Did you find what I was looking at, the proposed rear?
Yes, Paul.
I'm not finding it.
So I'm looking at the 2 over 2 windows
These two.
with the new raised patio door. And between those two things is some kind of a trim board, it looks like.
Vertical trim
Where are
board.
you talking?
Right here, what is this?
Oh, that.
No, this, right here, this thing, right?
Edge of the house.
That's the edge of the
Is it
house.
not a trim board?
The sill?
It's at the, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the
Is
edge.
it a trim board?
Yes,
Okay, so my point is,
it's in the
it
specs.
seems to me that it's, the other side of the windows looks like there's something lacking. It's open space, there's nothing there. Does this part of the house come out at all? Are we getting any 3D here? Is this gonna be a,
Flat.
it's all flat? So
And by the way, it does not face a public way.
Can't see it.
I'm not concerned about that. I'm just talking about the aesthetics of the thing, which I know it's a late hour, but I just thought that if there's a trim board on one side where you've got that pitched roof thing at the top, the pediment,
Yeah.
that there should be an equal trim board coming down from there to give it symmetry.
Well, Paula,
That's
look,
the end of the
This
story.
is what you're looking at, this corner here, and then you're seeing beyond it, I'm showing them the corner of the house and back
Yeah,
to
I
your
see
interest.
that.
And then you're seeing back to here. It would be,
I'm just thinking it would look nicer if it had something like that.
but there would be no
Totally
reason, what they're
aesthetic.
saying is,
Strictly aesthetic.
to mirror the trim on the corner around those windows, but I would say I don't think.
disagree?
I disagree with
Okay.
that. If I could, I'll tell you my concerns looking at the back, because I'll reduce it to that. I think the eave returns so I'll go from the front of the house back as we look at the back elevation. The eave returns on the dormers that's on the house, and then the new dormer you're adding on the left side of that drawing. And the eave returns on the back of the house over the new raised patio, or over the mudroom, let's call it. Those eave returns seem overly dramatic, and I don't think are necessary, because if you look at the original house, it's really quite plain on that dormer. So I think they're a little fat.
I would agree.
And I don't think I would prefer them to be secondary. The house, of course, in this Greek revival-ness, has these kind of big eave returns. I have, that's something that it is great. And then the other question, because it's the whole house, the chimney right now are the fireplaces going to function?
We hope so.
So the chimney right now is actually not in the center of the house, it's off to the left. So are you going to rebuild off to the right, if you're looking at the back of the house, the chimney?
We initially included the chimney restoration and replacement because we thought we were going to put in a gas fireplace that we thought would require the demolition of the chimney. We've now got a different solution for the fireplace. It'll be a gas fireplace in the living room, and the chimney will not be touched.
So the chimney will be the existing chimney in the same location,
existing chimney.
which is off to the right over effectively the fireplaces. So the chimney is, this isn't my drawing, but the chimney is actually, just so you see, the chimney is actually really kind of here. That's where the fireplaces
Right.
are. So that's where it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And I'll
Came up before.
so that's I still wish the roof was a little lower, but I think the eave returns seem a little over the top to me.
Are you, Richard, which elevation on the eave returns?
Let's say, again, it's no harm, no foul on your account. I can't tell you how many times I've copied title blocks and I forget to change the name of the drawing. It's actually drawing A4, drawing 2 on A4, but it says A3 in the title block. But again, how many times have I done that?
Yeah.
And when you say eve returns, are those the things where the roof goes like this and then scooch?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you look at the original house, it just kind of comes down and ends. It's very simple.
No, I'm actually looking at the original house right now. There are eave returns on it.
Oh, no, on the main house, but not,
We were mimicking what was happening on the front of
if
the
you
house.
look at like this dormer, they don't do that. They're very simple. It's a very simple thing.
Oh, it's just, okay.
Yeah, we don't need eve returns.
So I would prefer that, like on the dormer specifically, on the backside, you've done something that's quite frankly kind of almost, I'd call it Queen Anne with this kind of pedimented thing, which I understand is breaking down the scale of it, which I'm sure will be very handsome with a copper flashing and all of that. But I think the eave returns are too chunky. I would reproduce what you had, well, this is a better view of it, kind of reproduce what you've got there. Now, if on the main body of the house, as I recall, the rear corner of the house is still simpler than the front, I would prefer that character be maintained on your.
Simpler character.
Simpler. And I also think, I know Paul is concerned about the symmetry of it. I think, again, I'm going to say the eave return, or at least take it back a bit, on over the
windows,
over the basement hatch. You know, that could be pulled back a little bit. But those are my comments on those sections. I think they're too elaborate.
Pronounced?
Yeah.
So would you like to eliminate them or just reduce them?
It would be, well, if it were me, I would eliminate, no.
Is it your contention that this entire L will not be visible from Summer Street from any angle? Is that your belief?
I believe so.
If you go to the corner, first, if you go to the north property line, there's a row of views, you can't see it
No.
at all. Because the north side is very close to the property line. if you go to the south side of the property line, I think the new L might be tall enough that you can see a bit of it, but that's why we reduced the roof height.
Can we say minimally visible?
Yes.
So,
Definitely.
so in light of that, I wonder whether we really even have purview over the L addition, if it's minimally visible.
But we'll take
It's a
your
question
comments
for the
and-
committee.
Yeah, we do.
I think we do.
I think we do too.
And then if you look at the, on the
Well, how is that
last page, it
consistent
shows
with
the
the,
front elevation and the rear elevation
Three
on
Summer
the
Street,
dormers,
Thatcher
on the
Shore
front
Road.
elevation, on the, this
I don't know
one
what happened
page.
there.
You weren't there.
The proposed,
Used.
We're getting a couple of, Cindy has.
on the proposed front and rear elevations, it shows, the proposed front elevation doesn't show any eve returns on the dormers,
Oh,
but the rear does. So I would suggest they're consistent.
Yeah, that's what we were just
We'll,
agreeing to.
we'll agree to.
on the dormer.
Rid of the dormer
elevation-
eave.
Why would
Elevations
why do we need
1A3.
it here?
Oh, no.
Detail 1A3.
That's existing.
That's existing.
That's existing.
The returns on the dormers?
Turn, if you're talking about,
Proposed.
if you're talking about here, this,
Which one are you looking at?
Talking about the front and rear
Oh,
elevation
right,
right here.
existing.
I think you're looking at the same, she's
Yeah,
using a
talking
different
about-
plan, but
the eve returns.
Eve returns here
Yeah.
on the front view.
they exist.
They don't exist
These,
on the
these
front.
are
I'm
what.
Well, that's what we're
talking about on the
discussing.
dormers.
Yeah, if you look at you're correct. If you look at the front of the house, thank you, Cindy, that's very good. If you look at the front, so 2 of A3 shows eve returns on the back. I think it is preferable, quite frankly, I mean, they're shed dormers, they're not the
There's no
prettiest
eve
things in the
returns
world.
presently on the dormers, so.
Ones you see on your drawing 1
Yeah.
of A4, that, if you had that on the rear as well. You see what I'm saying, what we're saying?
Yes. Noted.
Okay.
That's minor.
Okay.
My biggest problem,
With the rear.
get right to it. Oh, are we still on the rear?
We're still on the
Okay, I
rear.
won't- then I will, sorry.
Yeah,
I'll hold.
Bob was suggesting that we could do it in
That's-
segments.
that's
So
fine, that's
Are we
fine.
done with the rear?
That's my question. Are we done with the rear?
Yes.
I'll say this, I think that you could have at the bottom of the left side over the proportionately on the new L projecting back over the bulkhead, that could probably, I would probably keep a little bit of an eve return there because there's so much roof landing on it, as it were. It's kind of heavy, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of mass there, but maybe pare it back a bit. Half of what it is.
Are you amenable to these suggestions?
Yeah.
All right, so these could be added as an amendment should we decide to approve the entire
You
application.
make me write that tonight, there will be a murder in this town.
Then stop making suggestions.
You're the one who made the suggestions, so. All right. Are we ready to move on to the front?
Sure.
Okay.
So if I might, I'm just going to point it out, and I'm going to ask this as a question. So, before we get into the massing of things, but my first thing is this. I know you want to change all the windows to 2/2s, which I love 2/2s. That said, and this is, I'm going to put my, purist preservation architect hat on it, and just ask the question if anyone thinks about it. So right now, we have a house that has some 6/6 windows that speak to a mid-19th century Greek Revival,
Where are the 6/6?
well, in the original house. Right, if you look at the existing elevations, you'll see it. I'm
Oh,
asking
those
it.
things, oh, yeah.
That speak to a mid-19th century Greek Revival home. At some point, someone added a bay, a Victorian bay, and at that time, they decided, we're going to put in nice fancy new windows.
Right.
So they put on 2/2 windows. So the windows, as they are currently configured, speak to the evolution of the structure as a historic house, and to that end, to my mindset, even though they're mismatched, it tells us a story. And to that end, I think they're worth retaining that mismatching of windows on the existing house. Now, any new additions, if we were to approve of them, I would say all bets are off. So if you add a Victorian bay, it's a new house, and maybe you make it 2 over 1. But I posit the question. Is it worth keeping something that speaks to the development of the house stylistically?
The houses are organic, I agree, and
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would like to move on to the front facade, which is...
That's all related to
Well,
it.
it's all really.
Yes, I understand, but, so now we're talking about the house that is prominent to Summer Street.
Proposed.
And I have great difficulty with the proposed changes. They're good-looking, I agree, but they're not historically accurate. And I find both the bay window and the front porch very problematical.
I have a question about the bay. And I drew it, you talked about, it has, it doesn't have a full foundation on it. Is what I rendered in this elevation, is that correct? That it effectively will appear to float?
No.
No.
It will be supported not by a true foundation, but by helicals, but we will bring to ground level some type of parge or...
Okay, so everyone, as you look at my rendering of this, with a very nice pencil sketch thing, it shows that it doesn't go down to the ground. That's not the way it would be. So it would appear to grow out of the ground, just as the rest of the house does. So,
We talked about that the last time.
so make that correction. It doesn't hover. It grows like the rest of the house does. And to what the chairman said, I do, having spoken about the last time, I do think the bay, when you render the windows, now that they're rendered, because mine, as you know, was a massing model, it seems overscaled. It seems like there's these two things, and again, my original concern about them front on being so close together is still there. And I am not a...
And the bay.
The porch and the bay. And I wonder, and I'm just going to throw it out there, I'm not averse, again, as I discussed at that last meeting, I mean, the porch wrapping around the corner like that is handsome. Bob just said it himself. It's handsome. It's totally in keeping with what might have happened. It's not conjectural in that we know it wasn't there. But I do struggle, as a preservationist, with the idea that a building can't have things added to it that, look, period. And that's technically a violation. You're not supposed to add features that weren't there. But does it have to be frozen in time? I don't know that's, again, I'll say this. I said it, I think, at the last meeting. Imagine if they had put a little Victorian tower in the corner there over your staircase in 1880, right? Magnificent little tower. And at some point in a hurricane, the top of it was flat, and it was flattened off because it blew away in a hurricane. And you came here and said, we want to put back the beautiful, thing with roof cresting on it. You'd get a preservation award for it. So, but it didn't happen. So, but it would look great. I think if it was done great, it would look great. So the question becomes, do we allow it to be added on? But I think the two of them together don't match. And I almost wonder if could the bay be scaled down a bit? And I can't believe I'm going to say it, but actually have the porch go all the way across.
Well, that was my thought.
We talked about that the last time.
My thought, if
I'm
excuse
sorry
me for
if I took
interrupting,
your thought.
is instead of the bay, instead of this elaborate porch, what if you were to construct a porch that would extend the width of the front from the corner posts to the corner posts, and you would get your porch, and you would leave the original or I should say, the later but historic entryway unviolated. And it would be reversible. This is a key element to the Secretary of Interior standards for historic preservation, that what you do should be reversible. A simple porch of that type with a nice roof, some future owner could take it off, and the house that still exists as it presents to Summer Street would be left alone. Now, the problem you're going to have with this is that porch over the window to the left is going to allow less light, and you're looking for more light. I get that. But as a preservationist myself, I find all of this conjectural, excuse me for using the word, aggrandizement to the front of this very simple Greek Revival facade to be problematical. I agree, it looks nice. Would have been nice if the house had been designed that way or modified that way in the Victorian era, but it wasn't. And it's that array in its entirety is a problem for me. We have other members of the committee who may feel differently.
So Bob, to be clear, just because I think I understand what you're saying, you're suggesting that the original porch stay in its exact same configuration and then
alcove, I'm going to call it a little alcove.
the original side porch stays just as it is.
Yes.
Ends where it is.
Yes.
Then there's an end, and then at the corner, a full-length porch goes across the entire width of the front.
From here
to there, across from corner board to corner board.
Just from corner board to corner board, or would you bring out like they?
No,
like
not
they've
there.
requested?
No, he's
No,
suggesting
from
it be
corner
here.
board to corner board to
Okay,
corner
well, what
board.
about, then how do you end the porch on the
It
side?
ends just where it was.
You don't touch the porch on the side.
Okay, so you put, yeah, I agree with this, it's too busy.
It would also take the curse off the separation of those two windows that, one of which, the far right one, was probably a door at one time.
Okay,
I'm sure if
so
you did the
let-
forensics,
let's-
you'd find
can
that
we-
to be true.
Can we move forward with, does everyone agree that no one wants the bay window?
Yeah, I'm
Started.
afraid I have to.
I have a problem with the bay window because you're getting rid of the original fabric, getting rid of those two original existing windows. I'd like to see all the original windows stay in the main part of the house. All the 6/6s, because they're all historic.
Reversible, certainly not easily.
So the porch you're talking about porch all the way across the front,
From corner board to corner board.
okay, but not connected like this one is drawn,
No.
not a wraparound.
So how do you access that front porch then?
Well, that's my next thing. It would be like this. It would be like
What
this.
you could do,
Yeah,
Where the original door was.
yes,
right.
you could put the door back where the lonely window is located.
The red room, the little red side, what was probably, which I'm certain was the original entrance.
Dollars to donuts, you do some forensic excavation on the inside of that window, you're going to find the framing for a door.
I would,
Willing to bet.
I would like to not lose any of those three front windows.
Well, you'd lose the one that was an infill where the door is, so it would be this
I don't
one.
think that's necessary. We
But
already
then
have
you'd have a
we
way
already-
out to
we
the
already have a
porch.
front door.
They put steps on the side.
You can put steps in, or you can wrap around. Or you can wrap it around just and end it where it is and lose the bay window. This proposed porch and no bay window. How does that sound? No bay window, the original three windows in the front, and this wraparound porch as far as it goes.
Right now, how deep is the new section of porch?
5'1".
I mean, I'm just going to say it. I'd even suggest 5'1" isn't all that deep in terms of really sitting out there and enjoying it. I'd almost say if you did that, Again, we're just talking amongst ourselves, so please, you might say, we think that's awful. But if you did that, I would even, quite frankly, I'd almost advocate.
John, it
for
wouldn't
being-
matter, it wouldn't matter to you if it could be shown that that window was a door originally? I mean, almost certainly was a door.
Well, okay, you know, the house,
Because the door in the alcove was added later.
33 Summer Street comes to mind, and I see those windows that aren't perfectly symmetrical. I mean, it's a quirk of the house, and it exists.
Yeah, it's
and
very
it
Greek
evolved that way, and that's what we have now.
It's a
Okay?
very Greek revival, archetype, right? To have the door to the right, on one side, and then you have two windows. So you go in, and that, again, that Victorian hallway, when you go in, that L
Yeah.
that goes off to the right as you look at the front of the house is a Victorian addition with then a little Victorian porch on it. It leads into that. But that's why they have that bizarre little room where you go in, because that was the front hall, and I'm sure it had some incredibly
Mr. Rubich is
steep
trying to
little
speak.
stair. I'm sorry, please.
I appreciate, it's fascinating that we're trying to figure out how the house was. The one thing I would point out that makes me argue in favor of saying, I'm not sure that door to the window to the right was a doorway, is because if you go into the house, I would be very interested to see somebody show how a stairway could have gotten you up to the second floor without having had that entrance already be
It'd be like a ship's ladder. Trust me, they're out there. They're unbelievable.
Have you seen a paddle stair ever?
Oh, yeah, I know those, but in fact, I've been to houses where they are like ship's ladders. They're nutty. They're almost unusable.
Anyway,
But yeah,
that's why I would argue that I'm not certain that was a doorway.
So, okay, so I think it sounds like everyone can agree that we want to leave as much as we can of the original.
yeah.
Okay? All right?
Yeah.
Agreed?
That's my feeling.
Okay, so what do we do about, what would we suggest, or what would we ask them to do about this front porch?
Yeah.
Well, I gave you my idea.
I would.
Two porches, though.
No, one.
I would
It is two, really. I would.
It's silly to have two. I think it'd be silly. I think it'd be silly to have two separate porches.
What I would do, though, this is how I would mitigate that. Because I understand what you're saying, Bob, and reversibility is an issue, and I completely agree with it. That said, and having modeled this, you're calling for the original porch at the front corner. There's an L-shaped, effectively, a little return, and then there's a half-engaged column against the house. What I would, which I think should happen, is that those two things stay there, and you add in front of it. I know that seems odd, but you're not going to, the reality is you're not going to sit on that little corner. You want to sit on the front. That stays there, that edge, so it can be discerned. It tells a story. It was there. That's the corner of the porch. And then, just as you've drawn, you continue to the front and turn the corner. I think that would be the way to do it. So, yeah, let me show you here.
So how far does it extend to the left? All the way to the corner?
Well,
It could end here, or it can go all the way across the front.
well, if you go, yeah.
I would,
I kind of like the asymmetry of it
I do
as it
too,
is.
rather than going all the way across the front.
And then it
Just
plays
here?
to the, yeah.
Just this, and come out and
Yeah.
meet at one porch, a single roof rather than two roofs, ending in gutters.
Yes, I
So
agree.
it wraps around and ends at this point.
So for example.
Between these
yeah.
two windows, which is gonna break up the difference in the asymmetry of those windows.
Yeah, yeah.
Am I right?
I agree, yes.
So it extends beyond the solitary window.
Right, exactly.
But
And-
not
and
all
this-
the way?
No.
Sort of, the end of it
Where
is.
it is right now?
It's gonna
John,
end
the end
there.
of it bisects the two, the center window and the right window.
So that it kind of evens out. You get two windows over here, and you get the separate one
Right.
that stands out farther.
delineate the end of the porch. Is it in the
I would
middle
just-
between, okay, so let's define the windows. So,
Yeah.
you've got 3 windows in the front. You've
They've
got
totally gotten rid of
the
bay
pair, and then you've got the solitary
rid of
one
the
on the
bay window.
right. And.
And you're okay with that?
We're waiting until we reach a conclusion. we can
Yeah.
respond to.
I think the way they have it, I think where it ends right now, the new section of it, works.
Yes.
Right where it is. And I think what you've done, if I'm remembering correctly, is the left end of the new porch mirrors around the window what is the corner of the house. That is, I think, what you've done. Because if you notice, again, having modeled it, the porch columns in the front are not spaced the same. They are not equidistant from one another. The middle one is on the corner, and the left one is on, they are mirrored around the window. So the window is in the center of the 2 left porch columns, and, yeah, and so, and again, I think.
How does this differ from, so we're eliminating the bay window. How does this porch, as it's drawn, how is your proposed porch and John's differ from what I'm seeing here?
Let me show you here, I'll kind of draw it. So here,
Can we see it also?
please, please.
Why not?
Yeah.
Just keep.
So this is what I'm suggesting.
We do.
Snacks.
We do.
So this is the original porch, right? So right now, you have here kind of a half-engaged column. It's half of this thing. It's right here that sticks out. And then it goes here, and it turns the corner. This goes over here, and this goes up, and it has that opening in it, and this goes over, and it has that opening in it here, and it has a little cap here,
Keeping the
and it
filigree.
goes up. I'm suggesting that this stay, but everything else is just as you have it. So that the
So there will
original,
be a corner there.
So the
There'll
only,
be a little-
the change you're mostly suggesting, if I'm understanding it, is just eliminate the bay.
Yeah.
But put the porch in as we proposed.
Well,
Well,
what
yeah,
I'm saying.
Why?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
not quite.
But
that's what
almost.
you're saying.
That's what I'm saying,
What?
too.
It's just almost, it's just a post thing, a post.
Yeah, but I,
the original is what we're saying.
yeah, leave the original. So if someday they want to rip it off, you have the originals
It's
there.
there.
And it
So
also-
what happens to this roof line then?
No, that continues out.
That continues
So,
out.
see, this middle column has, I know it seems a little odd, has that corner still. And I would actually, again, because I know you're giving up something you want, I would almost suggest, I don't know how everyone feels, but, did you say 6'1"? 5'1"?
5'1".
Because of setbacks. We're sort of, that's our max.
Put it any further forward?
Right, you
Correct.
mentioned that before.
Oh, okay, because I'd make, it-
wanna
I
get
would
into
have, I would have made it deeper
And,
so that
and
you could
we
sit
won't
on
be
it.
sticking our feet out when we sit.
Yeah.
We'll just sit like this.
If you don't have a rail across the front and it's low enough to the ground, you can just
So,
step down.
yeah,
the ground.
oh, that's too bad, because I would have suggested you make it a little deeper, because I think it would have been,
It's, I think that,
Planning and zoning for us about the
yeah.
setbacks.
Can always
your
make an
purview.
appeal.
We'll get right on that.
You know about that.
Crazy?
Yeah, that, because I like, I think it's, again, I think it's very handsome, but I do think the bay is,
Okay, I think we covered that.
okay, we're done,
Now,
done with the bay.
are we all
Go on.
clear on where we're going, especially
Yeah,
the
I
architect?
actually really love it because the stick porch was one of the reasons why I wanted the porch to come around.
Wrap
because
around.
It was just so charming.
It's really pretty.
Yes.
And all I would hear is how charming Summer Street used to be, and I just wanted to bring some of that charm back to this house.
I think that will do it.
lovely house.
I really like the idea.
I'll say, I think they made a mistake in not doing it.
But it didn't, it competed with the bay window, it just
Okay.
wasn't working.
Cindy,
So,
you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the porch is really nice, and I like the fact that it is reversible. If there was a future owner that wanted to take it away, and like I mentioned earlier, I'd like to maintain as much of the original elements as possible.
right,
All I ask is that we don't have to come back here a fourth time
all right.
So
Well,
how do you feel about
for
the,
color.
how do you feel about the, you understand what I'm saying about the window 6/6 versus the 2/2, correct?
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Now, are you going to use, you intend to replace the windows?
would like to.
No. Not the first,
Oh, so-
not
wait,
in-
wait,
Is that-
Yeah,
is that-
since we're not doing the bay, I think
have money in
we'll,
the budget.
we'll
Oh,
make
you don't, no, you
keep as
don't,
many of the windows as we can.
it's not a bargaining chip. that we-
And if I may make a
we-
suggestion to
We didn't
you.
give you a chip that you
For
can
the
play
front-
against
the
us, no.
front
Doesn't work
windows
that
on the
way.
ways.
Wait a minute.
We're not playing any
One at a
chips,
time.
John.
Yeah, actually,
We're having a
not.
conversation.
We're
North
saying,
facade.
well, we don't have to change any of the 3 front first floor windows because we're not putting a door in where one is.
Yeah.
And we're not putting a bay in where the
Okay.
other 2 are. So we can try to restore.
That would be
use the
great.
existing
Yeah,
windows.
we would like to see the old windows,
And
whether they're
second
the
floor.
first windows or the second windows,
On the second floor. too.
preserved.
On the,
We will, and the interesting question will be, it'll be interesting to see what the storms are like there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would try to do
Storms are
interior
those-
ones if you could.
What?
I would try to do interior ones if you could.
The two second floor windows, if I may, are dissimilar. At some point, someone pulled a window out of the second floor and replaced it with a non-matching window.
Actually, you can see in the photograph, they're 2 different sizes.
I also just throw this in, if I may. I think, and I know you have the pintles on it, I think that putting shutters, real shutters, not vinyl shutters, back on this house in the front would be huge improvement. It's had on for a very long time. Look at the historic photographs. It's such a Victorian thing, and I think it would just add enormously.
Are we offering that as a suggestion that they can take or leave?
I may have some that would fit. I think I've got 40 of them, different sizes. I'm serious, I have a garage. full.
But my question is, is this being offered as a suggestion? Okay, so you're free to accept or reject
Yeah,
that.
and I
So-
think that's something, once the porch goes on, we're gonna take a look. We also have to come back for color.
Okay.
At
Yeah.
that point, we'll finalize some of these details.
The color will be fluorescent orange.
Are the,
Blaze orange for deer hunting season. Then we'll paint it green.
All right, everybody, settle down.
Go back to the L for a minute.
Yeah.
Just for a minute. Are there historic features in that L that could possibly be preserved? You know, we don't have any control or governance over that, but,
We're saving all of the interior doors.
Okay.
To use in various ways. We had a gate in our garden, in our old house that was actually made out of an old
Yeah.
door. But with the demolition.
yeah, the
other
stairway to the Cape Cod basement will have to go, right? That's,
Because we're putting in a full basement in
okay.
that section.
love that staircase.
But on all, the original, the front of the house is almost, we're just restoring the whole thing. The only new addition we're actually doing is to try to
Okay.
get a fireplace in there and working on it.
So are we essentially,
Well, we haven't talked about the bay on the side.
Right, that's the only other thing.
Is it
oh,
The south facade.
right.
I guess I have one question, though, before we get to that, in terms of windows. So on the northern facade, the new proposed northern facade shows all 2/2 new windows, but I believe there's existing 6/6s there now, is that right?
The northern side, there's a weird, the front bedroom has a weird,
Wide window.
wide window that
That
looks
goes
like it
over.
was.
That's right.
So I think what we're doing there is putting 2 windows together, if I'm
Okay.
correct.
Is there anything in the L that you could reuse, repurpose for that
What I was
area?
going to say about any of the windows that, there's a small bedroom upstairs. I think I was in the room with you when
Teeny
we were talking
bedroom.
about it. We're going to remove, some of these windows are in better condition than others. So we're going to be cannibalizing whatever we can. But that window, north side in particular, is weird. It's just really wide.
It's over a window seat.
Yeah.
And then if you step out from it onto the roof of the existing entrance porch.
Just for your consideration as a free resource, I would be happy with Ms. Ecker's husband, who's a renowned historic preservation expert, to come over and make an assessment of all your windows and make recommendations. You know, sometimes it's cheaper to rehab an antique window than it is to replace it, assuming that what you have are worth rehabbing, which is
It's
a
not
factor of
sometimes.
how old and also what kind of condition.
It's actually always less expensive.
So, go ahead, the bay.
They on the side
Can I explain why we did this to the bay?
Did what?
The bay?
The one on the side we're talking about.
Outside, putting the door in the center.
Because we didn't want to make this house bigger than it needed to be. What we did was, we pushed that room where that bay window is going to become our kitchen. We pushed it back to, which was, we found out, an old greenhouse. There's a slab there, so we pushed out. So that's going to become our kitchen. And so I was looking at bay windows and doors and stuff, and I found, and also in some of the storefronts on 6A, that they have French doors that mimic, have the wood carving on the bottom. I forgot what it's called because it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm dizzy.
Oh, dear.
And I just thought, wow, make that the kitchen door, right, the access to the kitchen, where you could come in and out, and if we can make that, I'm not talking right.
We're getting it.
We can make that a door, that center panel, and mimic the existing window. That would be a nice solution. You know, to getting a door in the kitchen for me, and B, to kind of keep that whole.
But
bay-
still have
Yeah.
the bay look.
And I admit that the rendering looks a little off. It will be a custom door, so we would make sure that it kind of lines up with the existing window.
Yeah.
And I'm really lightheaded right
I'll tell you. I'm
now.
sorry.
No, it's fine, I'm fine. It's just like, I'm just starting to like
Lose it.
slur my words.
I'll tell you, as I look at it, I was really, at one point, I was like, oh, no, absolutely not, that couldn't happen. But the existing bay has these, you know, two little windows. The ones on the side, you know, let's put it this way. If they came with us with a design for this bay as it exists, would we be happy with those two little windows on the flat front of it? I don't know that we would be. You know, we might think, I don't know that it's you know, it's nice, but I guess for me, it's something you really want very badly is something, I think if there's a custom-made, kind of thin little double door, how wide is this door?
I think it's, what did?
42.
42 inches?
It could be really adorably charming, you know, with the right hardware on it.
What are you talking about, just put lights on the side rather than windows?
No, I'm talking about the bay that they want, that she wants. Right here, putting the doors instead of the windows.
We're talking the existing bay on the
On the side.
on the south elevation.
So,
They're proposing putting a door here, yeah.
And to be clear, the
That's
particular
right.
reason that the door seems to make sense is these are the two little windows that
Yeah.
I think Richard's talking about, and they're already oddly divided by a fairly thick divider. So that's why it would be
The mullion.
easy to turn that
Modify.
into a door and still look very much.
Yeah.
Doors.
I think it would be, it's something these folks really want to have. It's going to be their kitchen, a way out. I think it's an easy, it's not original, but
no, that's okay.
I think
agree.
I think it's fine. I don't know what exactly, I mean, see, when I modeled it, I don't know what exactly you're going to do for a step, but I'm sure it's going to be very nice.
So we're improving on whatever Victorian dunderhead
Not
design.
not improving, but giving
is
them,
improving. It's
allowing them to alter it.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, there's a little bit of inconsistency going on in our thinking and our philosophy about preservation, historic preservation.
No,
But, you know, I do think that you've been flexible and, you know, attentive to our concerns and have adjusted to those, and I appreciate that. And we should, in turn, be flexible and attentive to your concerns. So
But just to make, just I want to, I know I'm going to punctuate it, but the chimney is staying exactly where it is.
Yep.
And you will know that we're going to restore, even though it won't work, the chimney that will be in the kitchen.
The metal front
We're gonna
that's on
restore
the
that.
other side.
Oh, the Franklin insert.
On the other side.
Good.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
Yeah, we like it.
Barnstable stove.
So now that, so the door that is depicted on the proposed south elevation, is that the door we want to see? That door?
Well, I think you just said that it's actually, somehow the height of it is going to be, it's going to be more mitigated with the height of the window.
Wait, are we talking about?
These two windows
You're
aren't
talking about
in
the
the same
entrance door,
height, so
aren't
that's
you?
why,
No.
that's
No.
why
Oh, you're talking about the window,
talking
the
about
kitchen
this
windows
door,
still?
this door here.
Okay, fine.
Wood around that
Yeah,
door.
no, I thought you were talking about the entrance
I
door.
think we got it. I think we have it.
Somebody make a motion.
Lisa, do you have all these, the list of things we've agreed to?
It was the.
Somewhere, yes.
Less of
And
the,
I am going to make.
Now, we have an interested party in the audience who has been very patient, and I know that she would like to speak, so would you?
Neighbor.
Would you please come up and address us, tell us who you are, where you live, and what you want to say?
She has terrible neighbors next door.
Christine Marzigliano, past president of the Historical Society. I just have a couple quick comments. One, I do agree to have no bay window on the front. There are no bay windows on the front of any Cape Cod houses. Second, I'd like to see the shutters return to the, if you look at the historical pages about this house, up until maybe the turn of the century, of the current century, there's always been black shutters on this house, and I think it would be nice in restoring the house back to its original image. I gave you copies of the historical stuff. I cannot conceive of putting a door in that bay window, and the view from the southern side, once you put the stoop in, then you change the whole view of having a bay. Even though it's a door, but once the stoop goes in, it just changes everything. I would not be in agreement with that. So I wish you a lot of luck. Enjoy your home. I know you're renting along 6A. Take a look at a lot of the houses along there. Some of them are very similar to your house. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you ready, Scribe?
I'm going to say, now, because if, I must insist that we can speak it, but I will scribe it tomorrow, because if I write it down now, little bits of Lewis Carroll's The Walrus and the Carpenter memorized from 5th grade will be on the
All
paper.
right, so let's speak what the amendments are, and then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll say them as I recall them. One, just amendment to the drawing was that the original chimney is staying as it was, it won't be in the center. The existing corner of the porch in the front, as it is now, with the little angled return at the, what is now the front corner of the porch, and the little return, the little section of it that engages the corner board will be retained on the new porch. And they're going to have to reframe it all because it's rotted, so, but those pieces will be retained. The new porch will be as designed. There will be no bay on the front. The original 6/6, the 6/6 window configuration that is on the main house will be retained, as will the 2/2s on the bay. And the bay will have the little split door in the center of it. And on the shed dormers, the eave returns will be removed on the front and back of the house. Actually, you didn't have them on the front. On the back of the house. And the eave return on the northwest corner of the L directly over the roof, the chimney. Let me try that again.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. The bulkhead will be reduced by 50%. That's it, I think.
And do we mention that there's no bay window in the front?
I did say
Okay,
that.
sorry.
Okay, we're all clear? All right, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve application 23-A100 as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, and congratulations.
I hope you're pleased.
I'm not going to have to call an ambulance for Elizabeth now.
You will have to call one for me.
You have,
They should at least, if the meetings go past 10, the
Yeah,
rule
have
has to be,
pizza.
you get pizza.
I think we need salary.
I think we need margaritas, forget the pizza.
Before you leave, one of you sign this document, and it says
Okay, I
if
can
you're going to
sign
make
it.
any changes, please let us
And
know.
I will write that tomorrow.
Right where it says owner.
I hope you're pleased.
Yeah,
You know, we love old houses.
yeah.
And we love restoring old houses, and we've heard so much from the neighbors, neighborhood and the history that, you know,
Summer Street's very special.
You have a wonderful house.
It's a
in
great house.
Beautiful neighborhood.
Gorgeous.
Great location.
condition that it's in, I walk in there and I just say, this is home.
Oh, how awesome.
That's great, that's great.
Thank you.
Where
Thank
are you
you.
renting?
For your service.
Thanks for your
After
patience.
Meetings like this.
Across from where?
and seeing what you guys have to go through. Level of
Oh, I
effort.
thought you were on 6A.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're
It was
renting on
tough.
Summer Street. Summer Street on 6A, so. Nice.
Okay, wait a minute. Where did she go?
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Oh, you're there. Okay, go ahead.
Who's she, me?
Cindy was hiding behind you. I mean,
Sorry, I didn't mean
behind
to be.
Liz. Oh, all right.
Might take a sick day.
So,
Here by the door, there should be anyway.
we need,
Modification.
we need to approve the minutes of the October 11th hearing.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second and also
All in
move.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. I have no other business. If I did, I'm too tired to do it anyway, even though I didn't participate in it. I'm sorry, what?
Put those checks
Could I ask, yeah.
on the sign, the one we're signing right now.
Yeah, you
Cindy added some
approved, I
check
put with
marks.
modifications.
Wait a
It's in blue.
I don't know why. Yes, okay.
Because you checked off approved, I checked off with
With
modifications.
modifications, yeah. I will write these tomorrow. Cindy, I promise I'll have them to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Cindy.
Past my bedtime.
Oh, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn at 11:07. Wow.
Yeah, I think
Is that a
that's
record, Lisa?
That's a record we don't want to,
Seconded. All those in favor, can I say it, sir?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.